There we go. It's 6:01 in the morning on a Wednesday. Nice to have you along on the September 24th, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Coming up, we'll be talking about the governor's race here in Wisconsin. There is a new candidate. It is Congressman Tom Tiffany. So the Republicans finally have I guess what you'd call a marquee name getting into the race to succeed Democrat Tony Evers. So we'll talk about his entry into the campaign. Jimmy Kimmel is back on TV. We'll play some clips of what he had to say after his 6-day suspension and the effort by President Trump to have him canceled. In our 7 o'clock hour, we will talk to State Superintendent Jill Underly. She gave a State of Education address at the state capitol late last week, so we'll ask her to share with us some of her thoughts on the current state of education and the battles that lie ahead as others try to undermine our public schools and shovel your tax dollars into private school vouchers. And in our 8 o'clock hour, we'll talk to Kathy Hempstead, a national health policy expert with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, about the soon-to-be expiring tax credits that help keep health insurance affordable to millions of Americans. Republicans want to kill that. Democrats want to restore them. That's leading to the potential for a government shutdown next week. All that and so much more ahead on this Wednesday, September 24th, starting at 6:06, all across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
Businessman Ryan Sternad. We've got a ways to go before the primary and before the election, so gear up for more than a year of campaign ads gracing our TVs and our phones. The partisan primaries will be held next August, and then the general election is a couple months later in November 2026. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Packers make roster moves. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. NFL. Wide receiver McCole Hardman won 3 Super Bowls when he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. But at age 27, he told me the NFL means not for long.
Whoever they draft and whoever they bring in, that's their decisions. But as far as on my end or any other receiver, all we can do is come in and work hard and make plays. And, whatever happens.
The Packers cut Hardman from the practice squad last night and replaced him with Jacoby Keeney James, an undrafted rookie receiver out of UMass with 4.37 speed who didn't make the cut in the Detroit Lions training camp. Baseball, the Brewers playing the Padres today in San Diego, trying to avoid the sweep. Last night, they lost 7-0 after new starter Bruce Zimmerman gave up a grand slam in the first inning.
Our fans probably don't watch it the same way I do, but he gave up an 87-mile-an-hour ground ball that had seeing eyes and got through the infield, and then he gave up a home run that's a home run in only one park in baseball.
That's Brewers manager Pat Murphy with Sports on Mike Clemens.
Catch Farm Report updates throughout the day from the Midwest Farm Report, right here on 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise mostly sunny today. A high in the low 70s. Mostly clear tonight, low 50s. Sunshine tomorrow, a high in the mid 70s. More sunshine for Friday, a high near 80. It's 55 right now.
Shop Furlough Mattress during our Labor Day sale. It's our biggest sale of the season. Get a free box spring with a mattress purchase or upgrade to an adjustable base and save even more. At Furlough, every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally for you. And it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Furlough has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Furlough.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we share stories from Turtle Island, highlighting the people and issues shaping our communities. From protecting water to treaty rights and preserving languages and traditions, we cover it all. Hear voices like Arvina Martin of Emerge, Wisconsin, Dr. Stately, Robert Lilligren, and more, because Native issues are human
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Minnesota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 now on a Wednesday morning, September 24th, 2025. It's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Minnesota, from wherever you're spending your mornings listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or catching us on all the many ways that you can listen to us live from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays or on demand all through the rest of the day. We appreciate you starting your day right here. I got a question for you. Do you think Donald Trump watched Jimmy Kimmel last night? I mean, he couldn't resist, right? I mean, what narcissist, what would you be? What would a narcissist be if you can't help yourself and have to turn on the guy whose show you thought you had canceled, but due to popular uprising from not just liberals, not just moderates, but from a lot of conservatives who appreciate the First Amendment, having that full range of people demanding that Jimmy Kimmel be returned to the air, and he did. So we will play a couple of clips about that coming up, in about 15 minutes or so. So stick around for that. Of course, did you watch? Did you have any impressions on what Jimmy Kimmel said about his return, or anything else that you have for questions or comments along the way here? Just a reminder, you can get into the comment sections of Facebook and YouTube for Up North News or Civic Media. Best of all, use the Civic Media app to text us, and I believe the phones are working again. So we're going to really start plugging the phones next week, because tomorrow and Friday the show will be on the road. But when things get back to normal here next week, it is going to be a lot of fun. Tony says on YouTube, I tried to watch Kimmel, but it's on so late. Yeah, same goes for the Brewers when they're on the West Coast. Again, I missed nothing. They lost 7-0. However, their magic number is 2 to get the best record throughout and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Coming up this morning, we're going to be talking to State Superintendent of Public Education, Jill Underly. That's at about 7:35. Late last week, she delivered her annual State of Education address in the state capitol rotunda. And Jill Underly, having been freshly reelected earlier this year to a new 4-year term, does not have to hold back. And, we'll tell you what she really thinks, especially of efforts to, shovel more of your tax dollars into private school vouchers. And so we'll talk to her about that and many other things along the way. Of course, part of the real meat and potatoes of having this show is not for, Pat Kreitlow to yap, but to talk up North News, and especially the many products that we have here, including a newsletter that you can sign up for. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe in the banner on top of our homepage, and get to be a subscriber. Today, for example, I got to bring in Parker Olson, who's producing this little party down in Madison Studio A2. How are you this morning?
Doing pretty good, Pat. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing better after I saw the newsletter this morning. Ellie is our new newsletter editor. Because of my advanced age, Ellie appears to be 11 years old, but I know that she's older than that, because, you appear to be 13, but I know that they wouldn't let you have this job as a 13-year-old.
Wait, that means that she'd be younger than me. Oh, God. How can she be younger than me?
You'll see. Next week, she's going to start making regular appearances. And here's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to it. So I open up this morning's newsletter, and she writes, "This summer, my boyfriend and I went to see Styx, the Kevin Cronin band of REO Speedwagon fame, and Don Felder of the Eagles. I also saw the Doobie Brothers with my mom and my grandma, 3 generations who enjoyed the same music. This fall, the Eagles and the Doobie Brothers have been 2 main bands in my music rotation." So either she likes the old guy music, or she's working a little too hard to, get in good stead with the radio show hosts here. And I don't think it's that, because, I'm not her boss, so she doesn't have to do that. But I just think that she's already demonstrating great taste in music. So
there you go.
That's part of what had to write. She also reminds us that there's a special fall edition of the newsletter coming out on Friday, all about fall festivals around Wisconsin, Oktoberfests, spooky sites as we get closer to Halloween, and more. So if you want to see that in your inbox on Friday, get over to upnorthnewswi.com and sign up for that. So, did you try to stay up and watch the Brewers again out in San Diego?
No, I actually fell asleep at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, which is very early for me. So that was not even an effort at trying to
Good.
stay up.
Good. Yeah, like I said, it appears you missed nothing. 7-0. The Brewers lost. But again, these are in football. You refer to this as garbage time. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to get hurt, and you don't want to get in such a funk, that you hobble into the postseason.
You
But
don't. I would like to. I have not looked at the lineup. I'm actually going to do that right now because I
oh yeah, there
fear
was
a
another
little.
new pitcher for the Brewers yesterday, and I spent the whole first part of the season learning new pitchers' names.
Yeah,
I'm not
really.
going to get to know these names because they're not going to be on the playoff roster. And so the Brewers, they wrap up the series in San Diego with a day game, and of course out here for us that's mid-afternoon by the time they get started out in Southern California. So the pregame will begin at 2:35 this afternoon on stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Park Falls, and Hayward. Then the Brewers are off tomorrow and then begin that final homestand of the series against the Cincinnati Reds at American Family Field. By the way, Quinn Priester is pitching in this afternoon's tilt against the Padres.
So an actual pitcher that we actually use,
Yes. Yeah. Now, again,
not
I
Bruce
don't,
Zimmerman.
no, not Bruce Zimmerman, which I thought was a made up name. Isn't that a pseudonym of some sort?
It could be.
But yeah, he gave up a grand slam in the first inning, and
Oh, did he?
so
Nice.
yeah. So again, don't get used to him.
Excellent.
I have neglected to mention we've been so busy with the Packer season started and the Brewers and Badger football, and I've lost sight, and I will not make that mistake going forward. That the UW Badgers women's volleyball team is ranked 7th in the country. And they beat 15th ranked Florida over the weekend in front of 12,000 people at the Kohl Center. The Badgers are 7-1 on the season, and they will open the Big Ten season this Friday at the Field House against Rutgers. So again, a good solid start for Badger volleyball here.
Badger volleyball is the only Badger sport that I think is like must-see viewing.
Yes, and clearly 12,000 people at the Kohl Center thought so over the weekend too. And I just expect a really great year out of them once again. Tony on YouTube, I only had the youth and energy of Parker. He says, Tony's got a connection to Cleveland. So he said he did stay up to watch the Cleveland Guardians complete their amazing streak to take the division lead over Detroit after being 15 games back not that long ago. This is quite a collapse by Detroit that's happening right now. We haven't talked about it at all, but every so often I look out the corner of my eye and I'm like, Detroit had this thing sewn up.
Yeah,
and
they were doing better than we were for a minute, I think.
Yeah, and now they're in a real fight for these last few days. Oh, and by the way, we mention Tony all the time, but to your point about what was the pitcher's name? Bruce Zimmerman.
Bruce Zimmerman.
Yeah,
yes,
he says can't trust those Zimmerman, says Tony Zimmerman on there. Roger pops up on Facebook right now to say, if there is a team going to garbage, it's the Detroit Tigers. The Guardians have tied the Tigers, and the Guardians hold the tiebreaker. Whoa. So yeah, we've got something fun to watch for the final weekend of the season here. So
there you go.
All right. So we'll get back to Jimmy Kimmel's return to ABC coming up after, in about 7 minutes or so. But let me start by mentioning here closer to home that there is this governor's race here with Tony Evers not running for a third term. And on the Republican side, there is finally somebody with some widespread name ID, as Congressman Tom Tiffany gives the Republicans somebody with some recognition. Now, again, it's not huge recognition, but the 7th Congressional District that Tom Tiffany represents, I mean, that is basically the northern third of Wisconsin, and he was in the legislature for about 7 years prior to being in Congress. Tiffany made his announcement on a right-wing radio show, and he said, I give us the best chance to win in 2026. He says, I will not allow our state to be dragged down that woke and broke road. And that really is Tom Tiffany's stock and trade. Has been going back to his days in the legislature, is just, the cliches of of Republican, right-wing, conservative talk radio. So you're going to hear about, going woke and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with the actual issues that affect your daily lives and mine. And that's really reflected in his record. I mean, he is not exactly putting together a record that's going to win over moderate voters. Tiffany has won in solidly Republican districts, and he's been able to do that with positions that are against women's reproductive health care rights, in favor of potentially allowing open pit mining in northern Wisconsin, hostile to workers' rights, opposed to affordable health care, dismissive of gun safety proposals. And to me, I mean, the thing that was a real deal breaker was his vote against accepting some states' electoral votes back on January 6, 2021, going along with Donald Trump's plans to steal an American election. But he also is in favor of what Donald Trump is doing right now with all these tariffs and the way they're hiking consumers' bills. Well, in fact, the Democratic Party of Wisconsin gave us the first look at an ad that's going to start running today. Let's give a listen to the state Democratic Party welcoming Tom Tiffany into the race.
Tariff lover Tom Tiffany is raising your cost of living.
The tariffs that are being done are really good things.
In Congress, he voted to protect the tariffs that are forcing you to pay more for nearly everything you buy. Tariff Tom raised grocery prices.
Higher tariffs.
Prescription drugs and tools.
Higher tariffs.
He raised school supply costs.
Higher tariffs.
It even costs more now to wipe your ass.
Higher tariffs.
Tariff Tom Tiffany, raising costs, flashing your money away.
There you see one part of what's going to be a multifaceted approach to tackle Tom Tiffany, because at this point, he will be the Republican frontrunner. The one thing that he does not have coming into the race, which was a bit surprising, is an endorsement from Donald Trump. And what I mean by that is, look, last year in the 8th congressional district in Northeast Wisconsin, Tony Weed got Donald Trump's endorsement right away. So right away that we were like, who's Tony Weed? He hadn't even announced yet, and Trump had endorsed him, which was, great communication by those two. But again, Tony Weed started the race, a guy who was an unknown with Trump's endorsement. Tom Tiffany and Donald Trump are indistinguishable. And yet when Tiffany approached Trump to say he was going to be running, he did not come out of that conversation with Trump's endorsement. Now, I'm quite confident he will get it, but it's a little bit unusual that somebody who is such a, I guess we'll be kind and say a loyalist to Donald Trump is still lacking that endorsement. But there he is with the endorsement for governor on the Republican side, and then 4 or 5 other candidates running on the Democratic side. The primary will be next August, for the general election next November to be Wisconsin's next governor. We will talk about the return of Jimmy Kimmel to the airways next. First, from the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota. Thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
If you're not sure what others are saying in conversations because of loud background noise, why not call Madison Hearing Aid Center? 608-249-4077 is their number. They offer fast and flexible appointments. Talk to Jim or Sarah. They're helping people change their lives with better hearing. Get a free hearing test online at MadisonHearingAidCenter.com. That's MadisonHearingAidCenter.com, 4706 Cottage Grove Road in Madison. Tell them John and Gordy sent you.
This is Chad Spate. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the hatred and misinformation that consumes our world, but I also know that we cannot build a house of justice and inclusion on a foundation of hatred and lies. We have to practice what we preach. At Chad's Design Build, we confront injustice the same way we confront a poorly built home, with love, compassion, intelligence, and persistence. We engage our community the way we engage our clients, with honesty and humility and the dogged determination that we can do better. Chad's Design Build, remodeling done well with love.
My name is Chuck Collins. I'm the great-grandson of the meatpacker Oscar Mayer and a member of the Patriotic Millionaires, a collection of wealthy Americans who share a profound concern about the dangers of concentrated wealth and power in America. Now, the fact is, you may not care how much money another person has, but you likely do care how much power another person has, especially if they're using that power to rig the rules of the economy to make themselves richer and you poorer. You see, there is a point where money is no longer money, it's power. And when rich people use their money to drown out the voices of everyday people, it threatens the safety and security of us all. Patriotic millionaires don't want to live in a country with a few extremely rich people controlling everything, leaving millions of people struggling to just get by. Luckily, we have a solution. Tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich.
Also coming up on the program today, we'll be talking at 8:35 to Kathy Hempstead. She's a national health policy expert with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. She'll be talking about the impact of Congress and the president killing tax credits that have made health insurance more affordable to Americans over the past 4 years. Restoring those credits to make health insurance affordable is truly at the heart of the fight in Washington that could result in a government shutdown next week. And that's actually the focus of our question of the week, which folks are getting on Sunday mornings by signing up for our weekend politics newsletter, Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, over at upnorthnewswi.com. The question of the week is, who's to blame if there's another government shutdown? Is it Republicans who have the majority in the House and the Senate, and they hold the White House, and yet they can't agree among themselves on a new federal budget? Is it Democrats who are to blame because most Republicans know what they want, but they need a handful of Democratic votes, and so the Democrats just go along? Or does most of the fault lie with President Trump, Mr. Art of the Deal, who can't seem to cobble a deal that would, be good for most Americans? So again, that's our question of the week. Sign up at our newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com. Civic Media has a new daily newsletter as well, filled with all kinds of links, show highlights, little news blurbs, and more. You'll find it through Substack. So to get Civic Media's new daily newsletter, here's the address. Go to civicmediatoday.substack.com. Again, civicmediatoday.substack.com. One more thing that's coming up in our next hour. It's day 3 of our Go for the Green and Gold Text to Win contest. We'll give you a keyword just after the 7 o'clock news. You'll have until 8 o'clock to use the Civic Media app to text us that keyword to be in the running for a daily prize, and then also a grand prize, which is tickets to a Minnesota versus Green Bay game in Green Bay in November to watch a little football action. So stick around for that keyword in the next hour. All right. Well, again, Jimmy Kimmel returned to his late night show. This is the most I've ever talked about Jimmy Kimmel, probably more than I've actually watched it. Probably more of a Stephen Colbert guy, though I haven't seen late night TV in forever with this early radio show. I have nothing against Jimmy Kimmel, but it's surprising that we're all talking about him right now. But it was his show, and it was a very flimsy context that was put over some of his words that led Disney ABC to say last week that they were suspending him indefinitely because of the way that he reacted to the Charlie Kirk murder, when, of course, anybody could look closely at the words and see that they were positively tame by comparison, and did not justify being removed indefinitely. And of course, that indefinitely only lasted about 6 days before a whole lot of people spoke up, including people who don't normally agree with Jimmy Kimmel on the issues, but did stick up for our First Amendment rights to free speech and expression without undue government coercion. And so here are a few clips from Jimmy Kimmel from last night here. There is, for example, I want to see if I can introduce these right. Nope. And in fact, let's just, here he is talking about being back on air and really what President Trump tried to do to push him off air.
I am a tiny part of the Disney Corporation. They welcomed me back on the air, and I thank them for that. That unfortunately, and I think unjustly, this puts them at risk. The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. He can't take a joke, right? And so one thing you didn't hear in there was an apology. Jim from Brookfield on our text line summed it up well, saying, "Good morning, Pat. My wife and I stayed up to watch Jimmy Kimmel and thought he did a very good job, spot on. We noticed he never said he was sorry, but his message was remorseful to anyone who may have been offended. We feel his emotions were sincere." Here's a little bit more of Jimmy Kimmel talking about that.
He's gunning for our journalists too. He's suing them. He's bullying them. Over the weekend, his Foxy friend Pete Hegseth announced a new policy that requires journalists with Pentagon press credentials to sign a pledge promising not to report information that hasn't been explicitly authorized for release. That includes unclassified information. They want to pick and choose what the news is. I know that's not as interesting as muzzling a comedian, but it's so important to have a free press, and it is nuts that we aren't paying more attention to it. Walter Cronkite must be spinning in his grave right now. He's dead, right?
Yeah. Yes, yes, he is, and yes, would be spinning in his grave at this. And so, again, I'm so happy to hear that Kimmel was much more on offense and defending free speech, and in no way appeared to be kowtowed. Here's one more clip to show that he's making the corner and turning back into comedy at the president, which is fair game in this country.
He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show. That backfired bigly. He might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now.
So there we go. Again, to the degree that it may have been just a big old distraction is a possibility. And Trump, of course, couldn't help himself. He had to comment on this, so he took to his tiny social media feed, and he basically provided a confession that he, the president of the United States, had tried to remove Jimmy Kimmel and have the show canceled. Lots of insults in his tweet. He says, "I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative." Again, this is the president of the United States saying he's going to be going after networks and owners to do whatever it is that he says, including canceling comedians who tell jokes about him. That in itself is a joke, and the joke we need to keep telling because we have the freedom to do that in America. Today's history lesson is next. You're up north.
That impacts you and your community from the Midwest Farm Report throughout your day on 92.7 WMDX. Well, the weather might have thrown a few surprises at Wisconsin farmers, but boy, I'll tell you what, it's been great for grazing. I'm Pam Yankee, starting you off before the opening bell on a Wednesday morning. Quick look at what's happening in agribusiness news. We've got the markets and that story with one of our University Extension grazing specialists on the way.
From sugar beet fields to dairy facilities, producers count on an operating line of credit from Ag Country Farm Credit Services to help make their operations more profitable. With multi-year commitment options, digital tools and remote deposit, and the ability to only borrow what you need when you need it, our operating line of credit makes financing your needs easier. Visit agcountry.com/line of credit or call 800-450-9858 to learn more. Terms apply. See website for details.
Whether it's finally getting that blue ribbon or enjoying too many carnival rides, we all have memories of the fair. Here's your chance to share those stories in our Everybody Has a Fair Story contest. The Midwest Farm Report is teaming up with the Wisconsin Association of Fairs as they look for the Grand Champion Fair Story. Enter the Fair Story contest for a chance to win a cash prize at MidwestFarmReport.com.
Jason Cavadini, University Extension grazing outreach specialist, says with the cooler weather that we had this growing season, perennial grasses have thrived. And he said that's great news for anybody that's grazing.
It's just been an exceptional year for cool season perennial grasses. There's multiple reasons for that. We've had plenty of rainfall, and it's kind of been timed. So like typically we think of cool season grasses, especially as we hear this term summer slump. This year that was timed up with plenty of rainfall. And so the summer slump was pretty minor, if at all.
That's Jason Cavadini. He's one of our University Extension grazing outreach specialists. And he said, well, those perennial grasses were able to thrive this summer. He said, believe it or not, September and October can be some of the best part of the growing season for those cool season grasses. In overnight electronic trade on a Wednesday morning, right now, December corn's unchanged at $4.26. November soybeans currently down to at $10.10. Right now, the July wheat for next year up a penny at $5.62. Yesterday, barrel cheese dropped 2.25 cents to $1.61. 40-pound block cheese, that was up to at $1.63. Double A butter on Tuesday down to at $1.68 a pound. This morning, the October Class 3 milk that goes into cheese up 17 cents at $17.27. November currently up 9 at $16.69 a hundredweight. There's your market update on a Wednesday morning. I'm Pam Yankee.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Todd Albaugh Show, weekday afternoons from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise mostly sunny today. A high in the low 70s. Mostly clear tonight, low 50s. Sunshine tomorrow, a high in the mid 70s. More sunshine for Friday, a high near 80. Currently, it's 56.
Are unauthorized immigrants eligible for federal Medicaid coverage? No. Unauthorized immigrants are not eligible for traditional federally funded Medicaid health insurance and never have been. A 1996 law also requires most authorized immigrants to wait 5 years for eligibility. 14 states, not including Wisconsin, use state funds to cover unauthorized immigrants. President Trump has proposed cutting federal Medicaid funds to those states, which could drop 1.4 million people from healthcare coverage. In Wisconsin, Medicaid covers 1.28 million people at a cost of $12.1 billion. I'm Trisha Young for Wisconsin Watch. Fact briefs are
Many of you people out there been hurt in some kind
There's Sting as part of today's history lesson for the September 24th, 2025, releasing his sixth solo album, Brand New Day, on this day in 1999. Way back in the history books here, on this day in 1789, the first United States Congress passed the Judiciary Act, which creates the office of Attorney General and the federal judiciary system, including the formation of a Supreme Court. So a free, independent court system dates back to this date in 1789. This is the anniversary of the birth in 1942 of the late Jerry Marsden. He's the front man and the namesake of Jerry and the Pacemakers.
May be broken tonight, but tomorrow in the morning light, don't let the sun catch you crying.
Now, I had considered from Jerry and the Pacemakers playing one of their other big hits, You'll Never Walk Alone, which of course is still the song used by the Liverpool Football Club. But I don't know the extent to which Parker pays attention to Premier League soccer and would have known that connection of Liverpool and their song. Any shake?
No, I had nothing there. I am not a soccer guy at all.
Okay, all right. Then needless to say, the Liverpudlians out there in the audience are very disappointed in you and in me for not playing that song.
Liverpudlians?
Liverpudlians are what they are called. Yes.
You're serious? That's what it is?
To the point. Yes, it got to the point when we lived in a British territory. We lived on Grand Cayman for those 3 years. And when we first got there, it's like we were the ones with the funny accent because there aren't that many. Everybody thought we were Canadian because our accent, we're close enough to Canada, but we don't say sorry. We don't say a boot, But by the time it was done, not only could I tell the difference in accents between Caymanian, Jamaican, and Trini, but I could tell which folks were from Liverpool versus London. And of course, cities up to the north and Scotland. Scotland, you could tell because you couldn't understand a damn thing they were saying. It was rocks in their mouth. But
Scotland sounds like that. You don't know at the end.
Yes, but Liverpool has its own distinct accent. While we're speaking of things British, it was on this day in 1954 that the iconic London double-decker bus was introduced. The AEC Route Master was the name of it.
Interesting. I didn't know it had an actual name. I just thought it was the double.
Well, it had to be, some kind of a make and model of something. So the AEC Route Master. There was one of them in Eau Claire for the longest time. There's a mall that's not there anymore, London Square Mall. Okay. And they had one of these double-decker buses as their shuttle bus. And it would come around the college campus and other parts of town. And you could just hop on and get a free ride to the mall.
I like it.
I don't know, frankly, why more places don't do that. Yeah. And say, it doesn't have to be a double-decker bus, but something unique and say, hey, you want to come out here? Free ride. Because we know you're going to spend money.
I would do free rides in the Wienermobile. I think that's a great idea.
I don't think there's a lot of passenger capacity, but I could see something like that working out. Let's see. So that was 1954. In 1966, the number one song was Cherish by The Association. In 1979, the Eagles released their sixth album, The Long Run, with the lead single being Heartache Tonight, a song co-written by Bob Seger. Then we move up to 1983. The number one hit was by Billy Joel.
Listen, boy, I don't want to see you let a good thing slip away.
Tell Me About It was a song inspired by his future ex-wife, Christy Brinkley. It was the first of 7 singles that would come off the Innocent Man album. There was also Uptown Girl, The Longest Time, Leave a Tender Moment Alone, Keeping the Faith, among others. It was just a juggernaut of an album. Tony says, not a bad thing to be mistaken for a Canadian in today's world. Yes, absolutely.
True.
Yeah. On this day in 1988, here was the new number one song. It was the first ever a cappella song to hit number one.
A little song I wrote, you might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy.
first a cappella song. It kind of surprised me that it took till 1988 for that to happen.
Yeah, I would have thought that there'd have been something like in the 50s or 60s.
And again, time does what it does to various songs. Some age well, some don't. I'm sure a lot of people hear this now and they think that it's very cliche. And I just like to remind people that when this song was fresh and first out, it was so different and unique and novel, and most importantly, happy. Lord, we needed happy days back then in 1988, just as we do now, and it was,
I associate this song with like my 4th grade math class for some reason.
Well, sure, why not? It's easy. It's an easy one for the kids. You don't have to do any censoring or anything like that. Let's move up to 1991 with Nirvana's breakthrough album Nevermind being released on this day 34 years ago.
He may have
Come as you are, as you were.
On that very same day in 1991, the Red Hot Chili Peppers released Blood Sugar Sex Magic containing the hits Under the Bridge and Give It Away. That album would sell over 10 million copies worldwide. Up to 1996, and this is the title track to a musical film that was directed by and starring Tom Hanks.
Doing that thing you do.
That Thing You Do is one of those, I think, underappreciated pieces. I'm going to bet, Parker, you have not seen That Thing You Do.
I have not. No,
It was a bit of a takeoff on, say, the Beatles back in that era, trying to create boy bands and put a group together. Now, this one wasn't all random guys; they knew each other, and it talks about how how hard they worked. But then you get a little bit of fame, and fame does what fame does to some people. But
you end up like Kreitlow with a pontoon boat on the way.
And pontoon boat, you just live, you just never leave your house. You're just an absolute shut-in. That track, by the way, written by Adam Schlesinger. God, it's like Trump saying acetaminophen. Bass player for Fountains of Wayne. This is also the anniversary of the date of Richard Bong. And now, again, because of the name Bong, a lot of people like to tell a lot of jokes when they see the Bong Bridge or the Bong Memorial or all the other things. Parker's not even trying to stifle his laugh. So
I'm only laughing because you made a point of it. I thought we were just going to blow by it.
Oh, no. Because Richard Bong was born this day in 1920. And he's a Medal of Honor recipient from Northern Wisconsin. And so I just wanted to share that story real quick. Richard Bong was one of the most decorated American fighter pilots and our country's top flying ace in the war. He's credited with shooting down 40 Japanese aircraft with his Lockheed P-38 Lightning. He grew up on a farm in Poplar where he became interested in aircraft while watching planes flying over the farm that were carrying the Daily Mail for President Calvin Coolidge, whose summer White House was in Superior. You might not have known that little historical nugget either, that Calvin Coolidge's summer White House was in Superior. And so Richard Bong became, again, a decorated fighter pilot. He died in 1945 at the age of 24 in California while testing a new jet fighter, the Lockheed P-80, shortly after the war ended. But Richard Bong, a Medal of Honor recipient from Wisconsin, was born this day in 1920. One more birthday to pass along. Again, the late, great puppeteer, Muppeteer, Jim Henson. But did you know that Jim Henson and the Muppets actually had 2 songs that charted on the Billboard Hot 100? There was, I'm sure a lot of you, your first guess would be Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog. And yes, it hit number 25 in 1979 on the charts. But before that, the Muppets actually hit the charts in 1970 with this little nugget from Ernie.
Oh, rubber ducky, you're the one. You make bath time lots of fun. Rubber ducky, I'm awfully fond of you.
And then we can get into the whole, Bert and Ernie living together thing and rubber duckies and everything else. But let's just keep it for what it is, the sweetness of a man loving his rubber ducky at bath time.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Today is Women's Health and Fitness Day. It is National Punctuation Day. Sorry, no, National Punctuation Day. I had the wrong one on there. Let's see. Birthdays include F. Scott Fitzgerald. Oh, and this is National Cherries Jubilee Day. I believe Cherries Jubilee, is that the one you pour some brandy on and you set it on fire?
Oh, is that what that is? Ah,
I believe it is, and I have had that once in a restaurant, and you never forget it. In part because your eyebrows get a little singed, but
yeah,
it was one of the best desserts ever.
Yeah.
So get out there and set fire to some cherries today, kids, and celebrate Cherries Jubilee Day. All right. Yes.
I would like to point out today is Ben Platt's birthday. Who, if he was he's the
should I know that name?
You should probably know. How into theater are you?
I don't know. Tell Grandpa about Ben Platt.
Okay, Ben Platt. He was Evan Hansen in Dear Evan Hansen.
Yes.
Yeah. He and I only am bringing this up because we had Billy Joel earlier.
Yeah.
Billy Joel looks like the child of Jerry Seinfeld and Ben Platt.
Okay, well, now I got to run to Google after the show and check that one out. So,
Just had to drop that.
Happy birthday to Ben Platt. All right, what else you got for entertainment news this morning?
Entertainment news. I would say that this is news more for my generation, maybe a little bit before my generation as well. Bill Nye, the Science Guy, he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'm very excited about it.
Wait, so Bill Nye did not predate you that much? You actually know Bill Nye, the Science Guy?
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know Bill Nye from watching him on TV. I know Bill Nye from watching him in classes because we would use his videos a ton in classes.
I was going to say yes, probably as classroom videos rather than being a new TV show. But when he was first doing the show, it was very much it was novel, it was unique. Somebody was using, quick cuts and camera shots and animation and everything else to make science cool. And so now he gets a star on the Walk of Fame. So that's cool.
I didn't think of the editing of that show being what made it really.
Oh, it was a little edgy for its time. Again, for talking about science. So, yeah. What's the new rules here for The Voice? You've got noted.
The Voice they're introducing a new. It's called the Carson Callback Card, and I'm not familiar with this show. Apparently, the host of the show,
Carson Daly,
he is going to have a card that if a no coaches turn their chair, he can make them get a second audition, which is specified as being blind, which I thought was the point of the show.
It is the point of the show.
But I don't know. I just thought that would pique some interest.
Yeah, all right. I'm more interested in what happened to the friend of Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic had a friend who, he was killed by a tiger. Very, as you probably could have guessed. During an animal
That's
show.
a terrible tragedy, but you want to see my shocked face? That one of Joe Exotic's buddies was killed by a tiger. All right. There's today's history lesson. We're talking to State Superintendent Jill Underly in the next hour. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Rubber ducky, I'd like a whole pond of rubber ducky. I'm awfully fond of you.
That's right, Tony. Fresh, unique, novel, happy, just like us.
Bill Nye.
I missed that one. Boo, Liverpool. Up the table toffees. Everton. Why Everton? Then again, why Cleveland?
Why would anyone go to Cleveland?
Mm-hmm.
Anymore. They help John and Gordy hear better, and they can help you too. Madison Hearing Aid Center.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
What What is a commercial? It's a message delivered to the people, in this instance through your radio speakers, into your ears. Why, it's like a movie for your brain. This radio commercial is directed to the business community. If you want to reach more customers, you should be using WMDX Radio. It's that simple. Just email sales@WMDXradio.com and let our crack sales team show you how to make your business grow with the #1 medium known to humankind, the radio commercial on WMDX. Long may you wave.
This is Jim Santel, the host of Amicus, a law review on the broadcast stations of Civic Media. Every step you take at the Dane County Walk to End Alzheimer's brings hope to families affected by dementia. Join WMDX on October 5th at Warner Park as we walk to raise funds for care, support, and research. Pre-registration at alz.org/walk.
Looking to strengthen the bond with your pup? Dane County Humane Society offers a variety of dog training classes led by certified trainers. Classes are designed to help you and your furry friend learn new skills, improve behavior, and deepen your connection. Whether your dog is a curious puppy, an independent teenager, or a lifelong learner, DCHS has the tools and expertise to help you set the stage for a successful year ahead. Visit giveshelter.org/dog training to register today.
Get ready to go for the green and gold on this local Civic Media radio station. Listen each weekday for the keywords to text for your chance to win our daily prize, $200 cash and gold jewelry. And be entered to win our grand prize, 2 indoor club level seats to see the green and gold take on Minnesota in Green Bay. Just download our free Civic Media app and listen weekdays.
Oh, God. That was a little panic for me. I was like, ah!
No. .52. Welcome back on this Wednesday morning. Coming up later today on the Maggie Dawn Show, an interesting pair of guests. There's Judge John Daniel Tinder, formerly of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, a Reagan and Bush appointee, and Judge Diane Wood, formerly of the Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, appointed by former President Bill Clinton. The judges are appearing with Maggie Dawn as part of the Keep Our Republic's Article 3 coalition. In other words, they will be discussing a letter signed for the recent Constitution Day holiday by more than 40 retired judges representing both political parties. The judges will reflect on the vital role of the judiciary in light of rising attacks on judges and also the disinformation that's out there, the erosion of public trust, and more. So again, a couple of retired U.S. Court of Appeals judges appearing with Maggie Dawn to talk about the attacks on a free and independent judiciary and the necessity to pay attention to that and to stand up against it. Stop me if you're noticing a familiar theme here, where we're standing up for the freedom of our courts. We're standing up for freedom of speech and things like that. So again, Maggie Dawn has that and more coming up this afternoon. Looking at some headlines from Western Wisconsin, I took note the other day that we've been talking about data centers a lot. There's a big data center being proposed for Port Washington. There's a big one going up in Beaver Dam. There's certainly big plans by Microsoft in Southeast Wisconsin. There had also been plans for a data center in the Menominee area. About a $1.6 billion project is what they were told. But during the Menominee City Council meeting earlier this week, the mayor there said he's drafting a memo to the company behind the proposed data center saying that the city is no longer interested in pursuing the project. That came after a whole lot of people in Menominee and parts around Dunn County said they just don't know enough. There hasn't been enough transparency about what this company is, what the data center would do, and what would the impact be of a data center. Now, the main impact from what we've been led to understand for these data centers is water use. that when you're putting that many computer servers in a building, you could air condition them, which would cost a lot more money than it would to simply run water through pipes, get it out of the ground or a nearby body of water where it's cool, and then it'll cool off the building and could potentially be recycled as well. But how much water would be needed and what would the electric use be like in there? We had a guest on from Clean Wisconsin, you'll recall, about a week ago, talking about, enough electricity is needed to power all these servers, to power just thousands upon thousands of homes. So these things don't exist, in a vacuum. They don't exist in a cloud. They are very quiet beasts that just sit there, but they don't just sit there. They take up resources. And it's not to say that these shouldn't exist. Maybe there are probably the right places for these things to be. They're probably wrong places for these things to be in terms of access to affordable electricity and access to water. That does not say drain the water table for nearby residents and things like that. So in every one of these cases, you want as much transparency, you want as much homework to be done as possible. People around Menominee did not think that due diligence had been done yet. So for now, at least, the city is saying that they are no longer interested in that proposed data center. I'm seeing details here from mildstation.weau.com if you want to learn more. And while I was there, I took note of a story from yesterday that says the Ladysmith city administrator and his sibling are accused of trying to record the closed session of the county board. According to the Rusk County Sheriff's Office, 37-year-old Alan Christensen and 34-year-old Stephanie Christensen were arrested on suspicion of intentionally attempting to use or procure any people to use and attempt to use, wow, that's a big mouthful, electronic, mechanical, or other devices to intercept oral communications. Basically trying to secretly record a closed session of the county board back in August at some point. Now, it's not clear, because it was a closed session, what it was about, but these closed sessions usually have to do with some kind of personnel information. So it could be that somebody was in trouble. According to the criminal complaint, the sheriff's office said there was a woman in the law enforcement lobby that had used her cell phone to record a closed session meeting. The woman was identified as Stephanie Christensen. Video footage showed that a closed session place card was on the door of the county boardroom. Video footage shows Stephanie placing her phone up to the door to hear. Video footage also shows her putting her ear close to the door and typing on her cell phone. In the criminal complaint, Stephanie said she sat through the whole closed session and was trying to hear, but it was hard to hear because of a nearby soda machine. So she was using her phone to enhance the audio. The Rusk County government website lists Alan Christensen as City of Ladysmith administrator, and so the incident is under investigation. Again, more questions than answers on that. But again, if you're having a closed session, because I did see some comments online about this saying, well, why are they even having a closed session in the first place? That sounded suspicious. Closed sessions in and of themselves are not suspicious. There are times when you need to discuss sensitive matters or personnel matters. Closed sessions can be abused, don't get me wrong, but by and large, if they're about fairly routine matters, then they should not be recorded. And if that is the case for whatever intentions, it could be that the Ladysmith city administrator and a sibling may be in some trouble there. Now, again, coming up a little bit later, we're going to talk to Dr. Jill Underly, the state superintendent of public instruction. That will be at 7:35. And then at 8:35, we are going to be talking to Kathy Hempstead, a national health policy expert with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, about the healthcare tax credits that Congress and the president have killed that Democrats want to restore, and how that could lead to a government shutdown fight as early as the middle of next week. Plus, our new keyword in the Go for the Green and Gold Text to Win contest. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison's home for real news and great conversation. a civic media station.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. President Trump shifting his stance on the war in Ukraine, now saying the country can win back the land it's lost to Russia. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio.
It's a major shift from President Trump.
Let them get their land back. It could be that Russia's a paper tiger.
The president on the day of his UN address saying, quote, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form.
After his address to the UN General Assembly, the president met with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Today, Zelensky will address the body at the UN. Jimmy Kimmel was back on the air last night following his suspension by ABC for speaking out after the Charlie Kirk killing. Nexstar and Sinclair station owners, however, still refuse to air the show on its affiliates. Typhoon Ragasa, one of the strongest storms in years, has been whipping up waves and turning rough seas on China's southern coast. The typhoon killing 17 people in Taiwan, 10 in the Philippines. This is ABC News.
92.7 WMDX, Madison's real news and great conversation, and home to the Todd Allball Show, Monday through Friday from 2 to 4.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The field just keeps getting more crowded, and now Congressman Tom Tiffany has made it official. The Northwoods Republican is running for governor. Tiffany announced his campaign in a video released yesterday.
I'm Tom Tiffany, and I'm running for governor because I love our state. I see where we are headed, and I know we can do better. You know we can do better. I will freeze property taxes, protect our farmland from communist China, and I'll preserve our Wisconsin values, just like my mom does with her pickles. Girls' sports will stay for girls, moms will be moms, not inseminated persons, and common sense will win.
Tiffany is a former state lawmaker. He came into office in 2011 and was a prominent Republican voice during the budget repair bill, or Act 10. After 9 years in the state house, he went federal. He's represented Wisconsin's 7th congressional district since 2020. That's much of western and northern Wisconsin. Now he says he's ready to lead the whole state and took aim at leadership in neighboring states and in Madison.
We cannot let Minnesota's madness and Illinois' insanity to take over here in Wisconsin. Madison politics may smell like the barn, but I know how to clean up the bowl.
In the Republican primary, Tiffany faces Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman and businessman Bill Berrien. Democrats running include Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, State Senator Kelda Roys, State Representative Francesca Hong, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, and Milwaukee businessman Ryan Sternad. We've got a ways to go before the primary and before the election, so gear up for more than a year of campaign ads gracing our TVs and our phones. The partisan primaries will be held next August, and then the general election is a couple months later in November 2026. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers lose again. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Crew trying to avoid the sweep today after losing another late-night game on the West Coast, 7-0 to the Padres in San Diego. How can a team with the best record in baseball get shut out? Brewers manager Pat Murphy.
When balls aren't falling or borderline pitches or strike threes and things like that, it's tough times. But you got to get through it. Every team goes through it.
NFL, the Packers making a move, releasing veteran receiver Mecole Hardman from the practice squad last night after losing to the Browns on Sunday. The team signing a rookie speedster, Jacoby Keeney-James, out of UMass, who spent some time with the Lions. Matt LaFleur on being beat by a Browns team that had not won a game since last November.
I just think this league is such a week-to-week league, and you can never lose sight of that, and you can't take any game for granted. The goal is to go 1-0 every week. It pisses me off when we start talking about things outside of the next game.
That's Matt LaFleur with Sports on Mike Clemens.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise mostly sunny today. A high in the low 70s. Mostly clear tonight, low 50s. Sunshine tomorrow, a high in the mid 70s. More sunshine for Friday, a high near 80. Currently, it's 56.
I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show. If you're looking for honest talk, real stories, and straight-up news that matters to you, tune in to The Rick Smith Show. We're digging into the issues that affect your job, your family, your future. Join me weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network, because your voice deserves to be heard. That's The Rick Smith Show, heard weeknights at 9 right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. My problem is I don't ever eat fish fries, so when I do it, I overdo it.
How is Brittany today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good too.
Yay.
Yay.
We're on the same color scheme, all of us, I feel.
Ooh, yeah. Well, Parker didn't get the note, but that's okay.
Yes, I thought I saw the little button.
Always got some colored shorts for you.
Oh boy. That's not disturbing at all. All right.
What?
20 seconds.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. It's 7:06. Welcome back. Nice to have you here up north on a Wednesday morning, September 24th, 2025. Parker Olson producing things down in Madison, and meteorologist Brittany Merlot standing by as well. Coming up, we will have the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Jill Underly, joining us for our weekly homeroom segment. She recently gave her annual State of Education address at the state capitol, and will be talking to us more about that in our next half hour. And we have Brittany's forecast coming as well. But as you know, this week we've brought back one of our text to win contests. It is time for today's first round of the Go for the Green and Gold text to win contest. Yes, green and gold. You'll get cash and jewelry for the prize of the day. Of course, you need the Civic Media app. Look up a station, use the text button. For the 7 a.m. hour here, once I give you the word, you will have until 8 a.m. to text it. There will be 7 chances throughout the day, each with different keywords. So 7 chances to enter each day of all of the day's entries in this multi-state, multi-station game. One lucky winner is going to get $200 cash and a gold-plated chain. And then one really lucky winner for the whole enchilada will get the grand prize, 2 club-level indoor seats to see Green Bay versus Minnesota play some football. It's a Green Bay home game on November 23rd. There's a gas card to get you to the game as well. Total value of the grand prize package is more than $1,500. Now, the first time you enter, you are likely going to get a return message giving you a way to earn another entry linked to a specific activity, like signing up for a newsletter. Winners will be contacted by Civic Media within 5 business days, first by text message. Full contest rules at the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us. All right, if you got all that, then I can give you the new keyword for this hour until 8 o'clock. The word is morning, like morning of the day, M-O-R-N-I-N-G, morning, M-O-R-N-I-N-G. You get till 8 o'clock to text that. And then you've got another chance in the 9 a.m. hour with Jane and Greg for Matt and Air on air. And then throughout the day for the Go for the Green and Gold text to win contest. Again, the keyword is morning. All right, Brittany's here now, and we have another foggy morning here on Lake Wissota. A lot of what the advisories were, just basically the northwestern portion of Wisconsin, right, Brittany?
Yeah, it pretty much goes from Winona, Eau Claire, all the way up towards Hurley, and then everything north and west of that line, you're in the dense fog advisory, but there's still fog creeping into places northeast as well. So Minocqua, Eagle River, you're still seeing that. But it is pretty thick, especially north and west, huh, Pat?
Yeah,
You can see far?
It is. I mean, I can't take the pontoon out right now. I just couldn't see where I'd end up on the golf course across the way. So
That would be eerie.
Yeah, we need a little sunshine or something. What you got in store for us?
I got a little bit as we go later on throughout the day. More and more will peak out. Further south in the state, though, you're going to have to wait maybe until tomorrow to see more sunshine. You do have a chance for some spotty sprinkles on occasion. but no heavy rain or anything like that. It would just be a sprinkle here or there. So less clouds later in the day. We're looking at breezy winds out of the north today. A beach hazard statement too from Milwaukee through Racine and Kenosha. Those waves are building up about 3 to 6 feet out there. So not a good beach day. And temperatures right now about 55 or so to 60 degrees for a majority of us. It is mostly cloudy, and we will make it today to the mid 60s to about 70 degrees. So slightly cooler today than the past few days. Then we start our warm up tomorrow. Slow at first, but it really bumps up as we go into the weekend and next week. So tomorrow, a few mid to upper 70s scattered throughout the state. Friday, all of us hitting the upper 70s and then nearing 80 by Saturday. And then places south will be hitting 80 all throughout the weekend and into next week. A lot of places north flirting with that as well. And it's going to be dry and sunny, and you won't even need me for a little while because it's just going to be gorgeous out there.
We'll need you. We'll take it. Yeah, just to remind us, keep reminding us how beautiful it is. Rob
Yes.
says, good morning from Tigerton, cloudy and 54. I have mowing jobs in Wittenberg today. One of the places where I mow in Wittenberg, Rachel's Roadside Bar and Grill, made it on YouTube's Best American Restaurants. I couldn't make it to the broadcast because I had to work. I mowed 2 huge yards in the rural areas of Tigerton with no cell coverage. Yesterday, it was a very beautiful day till the clouds came out in the late afternoon. No fog right now in Tigerton, just cloudy, but Brittany always brings sunshine anyway, regardless.
Oh, thanks, Rob.
And Tony, of course, being up in Ashland, talking about the green and gold contest. Forget the tickets to the football game. It's the gas card. He's like, you're going to pay for my gas too? That's like getting another ticket.
True.
which is true with what they're charging for gas to get from Ashland to Green Bay.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know if Tony can win, but all of his neighbors in the Ashland area, they could.
That's funny.
That would be.
Tony's like, but I want to go.
I want to go. I want gas. I'll go. I don't even have to watch the game. You're giving me a gas card. That's
Somebody else
fine.
grabbing tickets.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, Tony then can give them away in his own way. But anyway, Brittany, thank you so much for the update. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll talk to you next hour. All right. Hey, remember, sign up for our newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com. At that point, you can see Ellie talking all about music. Turns out Ellie's a fan of some of the older music here, and some of us appreciate that very much. In fact, I like it so much. I think that starting next week in this time slot, we're going to bring Ellie on to talk more in person about what's in the newsletter. I think we've given her enough of a grace period, and we now need to subject her to this radio show. And so look for that starting next week. But she's busy working on not just, getting used to the new digs and everything, but she's working on a special fall edition of the newsletter that'll come out this Friday. It's all about fall festivals and Oktoberfests, and get ready for some spooky sights as we get closer to Halloween. So, if you're looking for ideas for weekend road trips or things right in your community, go get signed up for the newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up in the banner at the top of the homepage. And while you're doing that, sign up for Civic Media's new daily newsletter. For that, you got to take your browser over to Substack, specifically civicmediatoday.substack.com, and get the best of all the shows. Of course, you could also take the shows with you. And to do that, well, go over to Spotify while you're doing all this surfing. Just get it all done. Get over to Spotify, follow this show and all of your other favorite Civic Media shows. And that way you're never going to miss anything from what we do throughout the course of the day here on Civic Media and at Up North News. Speaking of Up North News, and over on our Facebook page, we were looking at, some of the posts and, monitoring some of the comments, because every so often you get a troll in the comment section, and we got somebody in the comment section. I don't know that he would consider himself a troll, but he does a lot of trolling out there. That'd be Derek Van Orden. That's right. The congressman jumped into our comment section about a story that we did late last week about all of the threats that he's making to people's employment and threats to cut federal funding to like entire cities, like Eau Claire, like the entire Mayo Clinic system, because he doesn't like what some people said about the Charlie Kirk murder. And he wants to equate it to domestic terrorism. And I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. And so when we noted in our article, the ways that what Derek Van Orden is doing runs counter to the First Amendment, he got in our comment section and he said the following: not all speech is protected speech. 18 U.S. Code subsection 2331. Look it up. We will not be sending money to organizations or municipalities that keep people on their payroll who advocate for domestic terrorism. For people who advocate for domestic terrorism. That's what he thinks when people put up posts that indicate that they were not fans of Charlie Kirk. So as for that citation that he made, we just put up a post. You can find it on our social media sites where we correct the record. We note that in the U.S. Code, Chapter 18, Section 2331, Paragraph 5, does indeed outline domestic terrorism. It covers activities that are dangerous to human life, or try to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, or influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. We read it again, did not see anything in there about social media posts that make a congressman angry as somehow defining domestic terrorism. In fact, that law that Van Orden cites does not designate domestic terrorism as a crime. It defines domestic terrorism so that people can be charged with other crimes like murder and hate crimes and weapons violations. But by Derek Van Orden's logic, countless free speech posts seem to him to, quote, advocate for domestic terrorism and could be punished by the government. And so we ask people to get in the comment section and tell us, do you agree with him that when people were criticizing Charlie Kirk or simply echoing his words back, is that not protected speech? Because Derek Van Orden said, not all speech is protected speech. And he's right about that part of it. There is hate speech. There's the, yelling fire in a crowded theater type of speech as well. But posting on social media that you didn't like Charlie Kirk, and it leads to, perhaps 1,000 posts by now from Derek Van Orden. In fact, the Washington Post took note of it. They have a new article this morning, co-written in part by Patrick Marley, who was at the Journal Sentinel for a long time. And the Washington Post article focuses on a teacher in Ellsworth, Krista Lysecki, who was looking at the coverage about Charlie Kirk and grew exasperated because not enough was being made of the horribly racist and hateful things that he said. She tapped out a Facebook post about it, and it was where we actually first saw Derek Van Orden threatening to cut all funding to the city of Ellsworth unless this teacher was fired. Well, she has been suspended with pay, and she's waiting to find out if she will be fired or otherwise disciplined. And she told the Washington Post, people are upset that people wanted to silence Charlie Kirk, but they're not upset that I'm being silenced. I may not be proud of what I said, but it was my right to say it. And that is really what it comes down to. And it's the point Jimmy Kimmel was making yesterday as well when he came back on air, was that the First Amendment works best, works to its utmost when it protects speech that you don't like, that you don't agree with. That doesn't make it domestic terrorism. That doesn't even make it hate speech. It's simply something that you didn't like, might make you outraged. But as long as you don't instigate violence or government threats as a result of it, then the First Amendment is doing what it's supposed to do. So Derek Van Orden can get as snooty as he wants with reporters, as he has. He can get as confrontational in comment sections. He can use all the cuss words that he wants, and he does. And he can cite a specific chapter, section, and paragraph of the U.S. Code about domestic terrorism. But he said, read it. Well, we did. It doesn't cover social media posts that make a congressman get his fee-fees all hurt. Still to come, we'll be talking to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jill Underly. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. By the way, I want to make sure Scott Ross gives full credit or given full credit for teaching me fifis instead of feelings. So he got his fifis hurt.
Somebody said emo to me recently, as in emotional.
What about emo? Yeah, we used
Like-
it all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
I had never heard anyone say emo
Have you
outside of like
people
the-
still described as like goth?
Well, yeah,
Okay. This was
that
prior to that, and they're not exactly the same, but
Yeah.
it's kind of in that same vein of emo is just kind of reclusive and negative and things like that. That they're an emo. Clearly, that term is not used as much as it used to be. So, yeah.
No, but it was someone younger than me that said it, so maybe it's being used more now. I don't know.
Maybe you were just never fully plugged into what the kids were saying.
Well, that's also entirely true.
To you and your home, convey that love and spell our name. The Chaz experience is structured to provide excellent communication, honesty, accuracy, detailed proposals, and satisfied customers. We're also committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. If you want a quality remodel and a quality remodeling experience, go to chazdesignbuild.com to learn more.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. We're taking a little bit of a detour this week on the Recombobulation Minute, so I can tell you about a brand new project we've been working on here at Civic Media that we're really, really excited about. So here at the Civic Media,
now Tony's out for you.
Tremendous amount of content on any given day, from our news team all over the state. To our
You know
daily
you're in
lineup of
trouble when you get a
political talk and
Zimmerman going
commentary
after you.
shows, to our many podcasts and weekend shows, to local morning shows, to all kinds of digital content. There can be a lot to keep up with. But now we're bringing you a new way to find all of this tremendous content all in one place. It's a new email newsletter called Civic Media Today. Like the Recombobulation area, it also publishes on Substack. This is going to be your
We've got afternoon baseball on some of the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network. Now, not when you're normally used to it, like like a 1:00 game or something like that, because the Brewers are on the West Coast. They're playing San Diego, so the game isn't until the 3:00 hour. Pregame begins at 2:35 on several Civic Media stations. Head over to the website to learn much more. Let's see. I also wanted to note from a Courier newsroom standpoint that Mark Jacob has a new Stop the Presses newsletter out. It's his weekly newsletter about right-wing extremism, exploiting the weaknesses in American journalism. And this week's issue is called Can Comedy Help Conquer Fascism? Loudly mocking Trump now may help us avoid whisper jokes later on. So again, that's from Mark Jacob. Head over to stopthepresses.news or couriernewsroom.com to learn more. Now, I mentioned that at 8:35, we're going to be talking to a healthcare policy expert about tax credits for Affordable Care Act plans. And so we'll get into the details of the tax credits coming up and why Congress is looking at a potential government shutdown about it. But I wanted to kind of set this up by giving some background and do it by way of one of my favorite activities, which is taking issue with something that the New York Times is framing. Here's the headline from the New York Times. Why Obamacare bills may double next year. Why Obamacare bills may double next year. When you hear that, whose fault do you think it is? Well, first off, they don't tell you, but there's only one name mentioned in there. So apparently there must be something wrong with Obamacare, right? It's something about Obama and the Democrats, right? No. And why ask a question? Why say, why Obamacare bills may double next year? When you know the answer. When a more correct headline would have been, Republicans set it up for Obamacare bills to double next year, or for health insurance bills to double next year. Anyway, terrible framing, but they do get to the point later in the article. They note that under the Affordable Care Act, which covers, hundreds of thousands of people in Wisconsin and millions throughout the country, The vast majority of people enrolled under the Affordable Care Act, the ACA or Obamacare, get additional federal tax credits to make those health insurance policies more affordable. They were expanded by President Biden and a Democratic Congress in 2021. They are set to expire at the end of this year, and Republicans are refusing to renew that, which is their right. But again, give a little listen later for when they want Democratic votes for something, because Democratic leaders are demanding an extension of the assistance in healthcare costs in exchange for their support for a government spending bill that must pass by the middle of next week to avoid a government shutdown. Here's another thing the New York Times says. Republican leaders have cited the high cost of the subsidies, estimated at about $350 billion over 10 years, and potential fraud in enrollments for the program. Again, why are you just buying into the Republican talking point of saying potential fraud in enrollments? Do you have any proof of this after a decade? If not, then maybe the better framing would have been Republican leaders have made baseless claims about fraud for the enrollment. And in terms of the cost, yeah, $350 billion over 10 years is a lot. Now, compared to the cost of having tens of millions of more Americans without health insurance coverage. But back to the article, it says many individual Republican lawmakers have expressed a willingness to extend the funding in some form, acknowledging that if it goes away, it's going to hurt their constituents before the midterm elections. And if a deal is not struck, more than 20 million Americans will face higher insurance premiums next year. Americans' share of premiums could increase by an average of more than 75%, and about 2 million people are expected to lose their coverage next year if the extra funding expires, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Other recent Trump administration actions could erode signups among younger, healthier people. Health officials recently embraced less comprehensive forms of insurance that were not as expensive. They've also initiated rules that make it more complicated to enroll in Obamacare plans and harder to renew at the end of the year. Now, Republicans are also hiding behind this point. They're saying that these expanded tax credits are helping wealthier Americans who don't need the assistance. Some House Republicans described the effort to make the expanded credits permanent as, quote, massive taxpayer-funded handouts to the wealthy and large health insurance companies. That's really something. It's nice to know that there's one time that they can say, oh, let's not help the wealthy with something. That's a very convenient talking point when you're making healthcare more expensive or cutting healthcare for millions of the non-wealthy, shall we say. Obamacare has become a critical insurance option for those who do not have access to health insurance at work. About half the people now enrolled either work for small businesses that don't offer health insurance coverage, or they are self-employed. That's according to KFF, a nonpartisan health research group that we used to call the Kaiser Family Foundation. So here's the short version. Republicans want to take away your affordable health insurance and make you pay more to their buddies whose profits and wallets get fatter if you have to pay whatever it is they demand for premiums. And they want to give them more power to go back to rejecting you for necessary coverage. Even if you've been paying your premiums for years, they will find ways to say, nope, that's not covered. The Affordable Care Act made that tougher on insurance companies to do, to treat their customers that way. And it helped make health insurance more affordable. And President Biden and a Democratic Congress made things a little bit more affordable. Again, it costs money, but a lot less than having tens of millions of Americans go without health insurance coverage. Republicans want that to go away, but they can't pass a budget without some Democratic votes. Democrats are saying, fine, put back some of these healthcare cuts. Republicans are saying no. They're hoping that enough Americans are hurt by a government shutdown next week that Democrats will cave. Democrats should not cave. Our homeroom segment is next. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Right, Tony? I mean, obviously Obama's fault. I mean, come on.
Updates throughout the day from the Midwest Farm Report, right here on 92.7 WMDX. We are in the early stages of the Wisconsin cranberry harvest. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Wednesday. But some unforeseen weather circumstances could be influencing this year's crop. We'll share that story next.
From sugar beet fields to dairy facilities, producers count on an operating line of credit from Ag Country Farm Credit Services to help make their operations more profitable. With multi-year commitment options, digital tools, and remote deposit, and the ability to only borrow what you need when you need it, our operating line of credit makes financing your needs easier. Visit agcountry.com/line of credit or call 800-450.
Hey, Jill, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
You're good. Here
Hear
you
me
just,
okay?
Hear you just fine. Are you in the, I probably asked this before. Are you in the Madison area?
I'm in the Madison area. I live in Iowa County.
Gotcha.
So it's
Okay.
Madison Metro, but
All right. Nope.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So obviously we've got a lot about the state of education address. Anything that wasn't there or other topics you want to make sure we hit during our segment?
I think it might just flow naturally. I mean,
I
there's a
think
lot
it will.
going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I just didn't want to miss anything. So I think we're good. All right.
Okay.
We've got about just over 3 minutes. I'll put you back in the waiting room and see you in a bit. See ya.
Did on early fruit development. He says right now, looking at the yields, he doesn't think it's going to be a record breaker.
I think the smoke from Canada is kind of playing into our crop maybe more than we think. When an important part of getting a good crop is to get it pollinated. And we can bring in all the bees in the world, but if it's smoky, the bees stay in the hives, they don't come out. So if you have a few days of that smoky Canadian weather, that particular variety may not get pollinated the way it should.
Dave Zawatowski from Lake Nokomis Cranberries in Eagle River on why the Canadian smoke is robbing him of some potential yield this year. He also said the odd weather that we've picked up so far this fall with the cooler than expected weather that we experienced in early September. He says that's an influence not on this year's cranberry crop, but next year's, since some of the budding for next year is already happening now. And if you enjoy birds, you're being asked to turn non-essential outdoor lights off from 11 p.m. tonight till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's part of the effort called Lights Out Alerts. 21 million birds will be migrating through Wisconsin overnight tonight, and scientists say keeping lights out makes sure those birds have a safe visit. That's just a quick update on what's happening in food news on a Wednesday. I'm Pam Yankee. Farm news that impacts you and your community from the Midwest Farm Report throughout your day on 92.7 WMDX. I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise mostly sunny today. A high in the low 70s. Mostly clear tonight, low 50s. Sunshine tomorrow, a high in the mid 70s. More sunshine for Friday, a high near 80. Currently 57 degrees.
Shop Furlough Mattress during our Labor Day sale. It's our biggest sale of the season. Get a free box spring with a mattress purchase or upgrade to an adjustable base and save even more. At Furlough, every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally for you. And it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Furlough has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Furlough.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
We don't always agree politically, but Bill McCoshen.
Thanks for having me. You want to talk Brewers first?
It's been a really special season, and it's not whether you're wearing red or blue hats, it's yellow and blue.
How do you come together in politics? This is one of the ways. Yeah. Find some common ground and then expand on that. And then
30 seconds.
Our neighbors are not our enemies.
Welcome back. A reminder that our Go for the Green and Gold Text to Win contest is going on this hour. And the key word for this hour is morning, morning, like the morning part of the day. Text morning using the Civic Media app before 8 a.m. And you will be in the running for a daily prize, which is $200 and a gold-plated chain. See green and gold. And also in the running, every entry is in the running for the grand prize, which includes tickets to a Green Bay versus Minnesota game in Green Bay, playing a little football in the month of November, and a gas card to get you there. Again, details at the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us. But morning is the key word to text before 8 o'clock. And then your next chance to win, and there's 7 chances every day, your next chance to win the 9 a.m. hour on Matt and Air on Air with Jane, Matt, and Air. Time for our weekly homeroom segment where we talk about public education in Wisconsin, opportunities and threats. And the threats are out there, but there are people who are willing to lead and call them out. And one of those folks is the state superintendent of public instruction, Jill Underly, who joins us this morning in the wake of her annual State of Education address delivered last week. Well, Jill Underly, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning to you too, Pat. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. It's so nice
Good.
to have you here today. I mean, you've seen the headlines in the coverage of your remarks. And so we're going to start there. I mean, there are definitely issues that are internal to education in Wisconsin, but there's some real external pressure, and it's reflected in headlines that had you taking note that the biggest schoolyard bully that Wisconsin schools face right now is our own federal government, is the Trump administration. It's a very assertive thing to say. Tell folks why that was a central part of your remarks.
Yeah, well, so the overall message from the State of Education address is that Wisconsin public education is a living story. It's written daily by students, educators, and communities. The themes in the State of Education were about belonging, love, community, pride in our communities. And what we're seeing right now is that the federal government is really trying to destroy that, right? They're taking away funding for teachers. They're taking away funding for special education students. The one that was in the headlines was students who are deaf-blind. They've threatened funding for school nutrition, programs in our schools. And so it's just really, they are the ones that are really causing a lot of chaos, I think, and uncertainty in our schools. Schools are wondering, are they going to get this money? And at the Department of Public Instruction, we're left to navigate that and stand up, for our school districts, which is what we'll do anyway. But the federal government is really inserting themselves into the everyday operations of our schools and really threatening the good work that our schools are doing.
Especially for a group that says that all the time that they're looking to give education back to the states. They sure seem to find ways to continue to micromanage or to interfere. And you touched on one of them that really got my attention yesterday, as Up North News reporter Selena Heller was working on this story about how under Trump, the U.S. Department of Education is canceling funding that would go toward the Wisconsin Deafblind Technical Assistance Program. And why is it being endangered like this? Because it falls under Donald Trump's definition of DEI, that you're singling out a group for help. In this case, children who are deaf and blind. Talk more about the program and its value, as well as the assertion that there's something divisive apparently about this.
Well, and that's just it. It's just so arbitrary. I think, when they were going through these programs, they were just doing a find and search, in the grants for anything that mentioned diversity or inclusion or equity. And the deaf-blind community, I mean, it's a very specific population, very vulnerable population, very specialized when it comes to instruction. And when you look at special needs or you look at the deaf-blind community, as an example. I mean, what we do in public education is we try to ensure that every every human has an opportunity to be included and belong in their communities. And so we provide specialized training. We provide, this grant money provides specialized instruction, but also training for the teachers, materials. I mean, Braille. So it's really just disheartening, and rather it's just cruel, to be honest, that they're just that they're doing this to our communities. I mean, they're just ripping things apart that we have spent time building and investing in over the years.
Well, we've had politicians doing that at the state level for some time as well. We're talking to Jill Underly, Wisconsin Superintendent of Public Instruction, and you focused on that about pulling resources away from our public schools in order to fund the private voucher scheme that's going on, and it's taking up it's getting mighty close to a $1 billion price tag that I still think plenty of taxpayers around Wisconsin don't know about. What they know is that there are these referendums all the time, these referendums, and you have some politicians that are painting the school districts as being greedy and having to raise taxes. And it feels like you're the one connecting the dots, saying there's a reason for these referendums, and it's not any kind of selfishness on the part of your local school board.
Yeah, I think people are starting to put it together. I mean, because the money is, the money that the legislature puts in every year. It is pie. I mean, if you want to think about it that way, it's just that the piece of the pie that goes to privatization just keeps getting larger. So therefore, even though the money might appear that the legislature is putting more money in every year, it's just that the portion that goes to our public school districts is getting smaller. And I do feel people are putting it together. I'm seeing a lot of signs of hope. Like for example, like in the Green Bay area, they were able to put it on their tax bills, how much money was going to private schools from their from their property tax. So, I mean, I know people want this information on there, and my hope is that, in the next few years, if the legislature is able to, get more gains with more public school advocates in the legislature, that this will be on everybody's tax bill. It's just transparency is so important in government, and I do see some signs of hope there.
As we talk about moving from the 30,000-foot level of federal funds and state funds into the classroom itself, current practices, technology, teaching methods, everything else. When you look at that part of the state of education in Wisconsin, are there things there that need particular investment, that need more of a focus than they've been getting these days, that where Wisconsin kids might risk falling behind if we're not funding, something to its proper level, or not keeping our teachers trained or anything like that? Where are those
Yeah.
opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. As you're probably aware, but maybe your listeners are not, we did undergo a strategic planning process over the past couple of years, and we listened to people throughout Wisconsin about what they want in their public schools. And so we came up with 4 different pillars, and the one that I'll talk about right now, I mean, is the innovative education. We really need to start preparing kids for their future and not our past. I mean, when you think about how school is done, in many ways, it's still done the same way as it was 50 to 100 years ago. And so we really need to start looking at innovation. We need to look at how we're able to meet students where they are and where they're going to go. I mean, technology is moving so fast right now, and we need to expand, personalized learning and competency-based learning in our schools. We need to use career pathways to our advantage. We need to improve access to learning opportunities and library resources, and our goal is to prepare kids for their future. We're also looking at educator recruitment and retention. We know that the number one indicator of a child's success in school and when they're in the school is the quality of their teacher. And when we have this turnover with our teachers, when we are struggling to fill high need areas like math and science and global languages and special education, that's hurting kids, and that's hurting our future, not just our economy, but I mean just these humans, their future. So we have to really look at and agree that strong schools need strong educators. And we know that we need to expand access to grow your own programs. We need to improve teacher compensation, mentorship, professional development. But going back to the federal aspect, this is an area that they are really leaning in on cutting cutting funding for, is our educator workforce.
It also sounds like people in the legislature, certain folks have wanted to stress standardized tests and the method of scoring and tracking that. There's been some back and forth in the legislature about that. How would you describe the current standardization test and grading process? Are there still changes that need to be made compared to where we are right now?
Yeah, I think that was the interesting criticism I think about my state of education. Is just that the speech was about belonging and community pride and the things that we need to do to make our schools stronger. And the opposition or the people who criticize it really are like, well, she's just lowering standards. The thing is, it's like the test is just a one point in time, and it's always undergoing review. When you look at our standards are updated every 7 years, and it's not the same ones every year. So it's like, math is done one year, literacy is another year, science is another year. And so it's like the test is constantly undergoing changes. And so you do have to update the metrics. And so it's, that's one piece of it. But then the other piece of it is our school report card, our school and district report cards, which were put into place 15 years ago, and they're in state statute as far as what, is measured. And so we did look at that for the first time in 15 years, and just to make sure that things are on track. It's kind of like when your computer undergoes an update, it always seems like, oh, it's at the worst time, or your phone has to download an update. But that's what we did with the state and district report cards. It's like it was due to get an update and just make sure everything was aligned. But again, it's just one piece of information. We've got lots of other indicators, of the health, I suppose, of our public schools.
And finally, you were recently elected to a second 4-year term. There's going to be a change in the governor's office, one way or another, a brand new governor. We won't know the makeup of the legislature, but with you being freshly elected, you're certainly positioned to be the most, I guess, fearless advocate is the right way. You've got the job security, essentially. How do you see your role over the next 4 years, the public facing part of your role?
Look, I've never shied away from saying what I need to say or what needs to be said when it comes to public schools. I mean, that's always been my, I guess just one of my characteristics, right? And so what I'm going to continue to do is just continue to advocate for public schools. I'm going to continue to advocate for the things that I know work. When we look at child development and we look at success academically, I mean, I talked about teachers and them being the number one indicator for academic success, but there's a lot more that goes into it. School nutrition, making sure kids have access to mental health, but also medical health as well, and dental health too. And we also need to just continue to modernize our public education system. So I'm going to continue to speak out in favor of all of those.
Dr. Jill Underly, we've run out of time, but it was so nice to hear all about the state of education. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Pat.
All right. Much more in the 8 o'clock hour ahead of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, there we go. Made it to commercial break. Jill, thank you very much. This was wonderful, and I look forward to hopefully setting up a couple of more visits here in the coming months.
Yeah, absolutely happy to. Just feel free to reach out to Chris, and we will make it happen.
I will definitely do that. All right, thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, Pat. You
See
too.
ya. Bye now.
Bye.
$40.77. Don't let hearing loss frustrate you anymore. Go to MadisonHearingAidCenter.com.
Craft cocktails, live events, a playground for the kids, and yes, self-serve instant ramen bar and drag bingo. It's all at Downdren's Distilling in Cottage Grove. It's not your average tasting room. Pet-friendly, family-friendly, flavor-packed. Visit downdrens.com or stop by today.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. President Donald Trump's March 25th executive order on elections, attempting to override the U.S. Constitution's grant of election authority to states and Congress, has so far been blocked by 4 of 5 lawsuits filed against it. A ruling in one of those cases, September 17th, allows a challenge from 19 states to move forward. The executive order would withhold federal funding from any state which does not implement the use of the National Voter Registration Form and mandate proof of citizenship documents, including a birth certificate, naturalization papers, a real ID compliant driver's license, or a U.S. passport. It would also end mail-in ballot grace periods, restrict ballot deadlines to Election Day, and withholds federal grants if they don't. States challenging the order include California, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Nevada, Massachusetts, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Wisconsin. U.S. District Court Judge Janice Casper issued a stay on Trump's order in June, saying the states had demonstrated a substantial risk that citizens would be disenfranchised. Her September 17th ruling confirms that the states have legal standing to contest the president's order and that they would be harmed, particularly by the withholding of Help America Vote Act funding. We've linked to the order and more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
Get ready to go for the green and gold on this local civic media radio station. Listen each weekday for the keywords to text for your chance
There's
to win.
Jimmy. How we doing?
Doing all right.
All right.
Lacrosse is it's Oktoberfest week, so
yes,
that's
okay.
probably worth mentioning. Other than that, no center of the political universe stuff really going on other than Derek Van Orden doing Derek Van Orden things. So
Okay, sounds good.
I know Eau Claire's actually had more of the events lately, but
Yes, yeah.
we've had governor stops and stuff out here, but a lot of it stayed like in Lacrosse proper. Viroqua gets a few stops too, but yeah, that's where we're at.
All right, sounds good. 20 seconds. You have got a little over 6 minutes to get on that Civic Media app and text us the keyword morning and make that the only word in the text or the first word in the text, MORNING, morning, before 8 o'clock. That is today's first round of 7 rounds that we do every day this week and next as part of the Go for the Green and Gold Text to Win contest, where there will be one daily prize of cash and jewelry in this multi-station, multi-state game. And then every entry gets you in the running for the grand prize, tickets to see Green Bay versus Minnesota in Green Bay, play a little football, great indoor seats for the game as well. So morning over the next few minutes. Civic Media Sports Director Jimmy Kuska joins us now from beautiful Boscobel, where we are, he's doing a little football coaching.
Jimmy, you can't. No, Jimmy.
Oh,
no, you work
I'm
for us.
typing in the word morning because the
No, you
Packers
can't.
lost.
No,
different morning.
That's a different morning. Like
As
Jimmy
in
is,
so close.
Jimmy is in mourning that he can't enter in this contest working for Civic Media. So,
Oh man.
I know.
Okay, all right.
Yep. I know.
Thanks, guys. That's my whole morning shot. I'm out. See ya.
That's
Have a good
okay.
day.
That's okay. You got football to coach, So, how's that? How's practice this week?
Well, we have 4 games to go. That's the upside. We have games to get better in, but high school football is such a wonderful thing a lot of times, but it is a lot of hard work as well. I had a mini social media rant just on, not even really a rant, just kind of a state of things of, I kind of look around, we're 4 weeks to go, but kind of at this for, I don't know, the past year, I guess, trying to get ready for the season. And I'm looking around, I'm like, we haven't won a game yet, but a lot of hours have gone into it. But, what's amazing is that, I'm coaching at a program that hasn't, won in years, right? Which, wins and losses aren't everything really. But we still lead the state in a couple of categories, which is pretty awesome. We blocked 3 kicks last week. Crazy as it sounds, we lead the state in blocking kicks. So we're good at something. But, a lot of that a lot of that with youth sports, whether it's like really little kids or high school sports. A lot of it is just teaching people, how to take accountability, how to work hard as a team, how to work to get better. And I think anybody can appreciate that as far as sports. It's what makes covering community sports here at Civic Media so great, is that with that emphasis on community, that it does bring people together, and we are all working towards doing things that are beyond wins and losses. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm in it.
Well, let me come back to the block kicks for a minute, because you think you've heard it all, and now I don't remember which NFL game it was, but it had this controversial ending based on a penalty flag that was tossed at the end over a block kick, but the penalty was called leverage, and I'd never heard of that before. Did you see that?
Leverage. That is
Yes,
interesting.
it is. It's where now you can jump up and block a kick, but basically you can't use you can't use the other player on the other team as a pommel horse,
Yeah.
essentially, and push off of them. And what you saw in the replay was one player like jumping up before the center could, just right after he snapped the ball, but before he could stand up, and getting there fast enough to essentially use the opposing team's shoulders as a launch pad. And that's called leverage, and that's cheating, apparently.
Yeah, same thing in high school football. So, by the way, you can't jump over another player in high school football. So it's, that's pretty common in football. But yeah, that would seem to be a little unfair.
It would seem, but I'd never seen it before, much less. And again, when you see the replay the first time, you go, "Oh, I don't see what's the problem. What's the problem?" And then when they tell you, "Look for this," and you go, "Oh, yeah, that." You shouldn't do that. It's not as obvious as, say, a face mask, where there's no mistake in that one.
Oh yeah, I think one of the cool things too about just being involved in sports, whether it's high school sports, being a fan, whatever it is that it's one of those things that does bring people together, and usually in a good way. So I always appreciate that too.
Yeah. So have we sufficiently recovered from whatever it was that caused the Packers collapse, that we can just focus on the game in Dallas Sunday night?
Well, the thing is that a lot of that was just caused by running into a good defense and a team with a good edge rusher. And very, very famously, the Cowboys traded away their best edge rusher to a team called the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, they
so did. That is something. But, I think there should be, the Packers and Cowboys, regardless of where the teams are at, that always ends up being an interesting matchup just because of the history, especially the recent history. The trade this year obviously adds fuel to it. I still look at the NFL. You kind of take it week at a time. A lot can happen. There's not a whole lot of difference between the teams, top to bottom. So no matter what, whenever you're watching a game, there's a lot of reasons to be stressed. But here's the thing: Packers have not trailed at all this year, even though they lost a game. They have not trailed for a single second of a football game this year. So that's a silver lining 3 games in.
If only you couldn't trail when the clock says 0. But apparently that is something that can happen. By the way, the coverage of the Packers-Cowboys game Sunday night, coverage begins at 5:00 next Sunday on several Civic Media stations. The Brewers lose in San Diego 7-0. Forgive me if I don't get worked up about this, because this is the garbage time version of the baseball schedule, whether you're in the playoffs or not, unless you're playing for something. And there are definitely some fights still going on between some teams. I'm thinking specifically about Detroit, the Detroit Tigers collapsing like crazy here in the last few days. But for the Brewers, it really is more of a, let's get through this afternoon's game against San Diego. Coverage begins at 2:35 this afternoon. And then Quinn Priester on the mound today, by the way. And then this weekend, 3 games at home against Cincinnati, and then bring on the playoffs. So last night's score, I'm okay with that.
And as long as the Phillies keep losing, it's not a big deal. The Brewers are 2.5 up on the Phillies for the top record and the NL and the number 1 seed. That's the only thing at stake right now. And with 4 games to go,
I think a magic number of 2. Yep, pretty much does it there for us. Sounds good. Jimmy Koska, Civic Media Sports Director. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, take care.
All right. Earl Ingram is right around the corner here to talk about his What's Going On podcast. Melissa Baldoff has our climate check, and we'll talk to a guest about healthcare tax credits as well. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. right, there we go. Thank you very much.
Just wanted to add a quick thing to the school voucher discussion. If people are really curious about what portion of the school levy is going to school vouchers, every district has to have an annual meeting next month by statute, and that is laid out very plainly for all to see what part of that goes. So that is published and printed in the annual meeting report for every school board. That's next month, because I know we get ours at the end of the month. So I just wanted to point that out for your
Is
previous
a very
discussion.
excellent point. Oh, good. Good. Thank you for that reminder. All right. Talk to you later.
Take care.
All right.
See you, Jimmy.
Earl, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. What's going on today?
Well, there's several things, but I really want to focus on a podcast that I had with Dr. Robert Craig. And so we focused on a couple things. And one of them that I think is really important is the fact that the middle class in this nation, from the 60s to the 90s, the thing that we constantly talk about and how great it was, and to talk about the possibility of it returning, it really was an illusion. Because during that time, America, coming out of World War II, America was the only nation whose infrastructure wasn't destroyed. And so what we did in this country is we manufactured everything that our nation needed. All the supply, it didn't matter whether it was sewing machines, washing machines, whatever it was, refrigerators, we produced it. So that made us and gave everybody in this nation an opportunity to have a job that provided benefits and offered them a middle-class lifestyle. The flip side of that is that's no longer coming back. We only make up 4% of the global population. And with that being said, as we have this isolationist approach to things, it's not true. People are thinking that some miracle is going to occur. When you look at what's happening with AI, the prospects for the future aren't as bright as many people are leading ones to believe.
Yeah, exactly. You said you talked to Dr. Robert Craig. Is that the same Robert Craig of Citizen Action?
Absolutely. Dr. Robert Craig and I have been, I've had him constantly as a guest for the last 15 years.
All right.
So we have a great relationship.
Wonderful. All right. 3 minutes till we come back. I'll see you soon.
Perfect. All right.
We've got a ways to go before the primary and before the election. So gear up for more than a year of campaign ads gracing our TVs and our phones. The partisan primaries will be held next August, and then the general election is a couple months later in November 2026. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
It's the Brewers and the Padres. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, the Brewers and Padres wrapping up their series in San Diego. Last night, the Crew shut out 7-0. Today, Chad Patrick gets the start. Quinn Priester's start moves to this weekend before their bye the first week of the playoffs. NFL, at age 27, McCole Hardman was the oldest receiver in the Packers locker room.
Man, it's a great room, man. Great competitive room. But yeah, like you said, all of us trying to make plays, all of us trying to, put our name out there. It's a young room as well.
Last night, Hardman got cut from the practice squad, replaced by a rookie out of UMass, Jacoby Keeney James. The Packers getting ready to play the Cowboys in Dallas on Sunday Night Football after losing to the 0-2 Browns in Cleveland.
We're just trying to win one game at a time. If you're thinking or have your sights set on anything outside of that, I think you're focused on the wrong things. Like we got to be focused in what the tape says and then moving on.
That's Matt LaFleur with Sports on Mike Clemens.
92.7 WMDX, Madison's real news and great conversation, and home to the Todd Allball Show, Monday through Friday from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise mostly sunny today. A high in the low 70s. Mostly clear tonight, low 50s. Sunshine tomorrow, a high in the mid 70s. More sunshine for Friday, a high near 80. Currently 57 degrees.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
Kira Sabin, positive psychology midlife coach.
People cannot take away our joy. When I spend time with people I love, putting my time and energy in things that I love that I think are important, not much has really changed. If you are worried about LGBTQIA plus rights, go volunteer at that organization.
You know you're moving the cause forward, and that's great for our mental health.
The Todd Albaugh Show. Weekdays 2 to 4 on your local civic media radio station and on the app. The John and Gordy Show.
The FCC Gestapo's coming out to take us away.
All right. Coming in hot, huh?
I just don't want to go off on the deep end here. I know I'm going to do it. I know it's going to happen. I bottled everything up last night. Oh, man. The family, I apologize.
30 seconds.
6 until 8.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
8:06 now on this Wednesday morning, September 24th. Nice to have you back here up north on this Wednesday morning. Parker Olson producing things down in Madison Studio A2. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot coming up in just a sec. We're going to be talking to Earl Ingram to find out who he's been talking to on the What's Going On with Earl Ingram podcast that you can get through Civic Media. Check out the website for more. We'll have Melissa Baldoff in just after 8:20 with our climate check. And then at 8:35, we will be talking about health insurance, especially the Affordable Care Act, which is made affordable. Those health insurance premiums are made more affordable by premium tax credits. They are tax credits that President Trump and congressional Republicans are in the process of killing, and Democrats are trying to restore. And that could lead to a government shutdown as early as the middle of next week. So we'll talk to Kathy Hempstead, a national health policy expert with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, about the impact of those tax credits on regular Americans just looking for some affordable health insurance. Again, that's coming up less than 30 minutes from now. But right now, let's bring in meteorologist Brittany Merlot to talk about the weather and how yesterday, Brittany, when the sun finally came out and it was getting close to sunset, it was so tranquil on the water. Okay, looking out. And in fact, I'm gonna bring up the slide here for you to see. That's the view of my backyard there for folks watching on social media. See that little point of trees out there in the center, out in the distance? Well, out there yesterday, the sun was hitting it just right, and the water was so still. And you could see a perfect a mirrored reflection of the trees on the water. It was gorgeous. I get my phone up. I zoom in a lot. I've got this beautiful picture that I'm going to be taking. Here comes a jet ski right across.
Darn it.
Just like somebody took your Etch-a-Sketch and just decided to shake it up and go, you didn't need that mirrored water there anyway, did you? No, I guess I didn't. Thanks anyway. So, but the weather was gorgeous for it. Apparently gorgeous enough for one jet skier to be out there on the water. And how are we looking for today in terms of, gorgeousness?
Gorgeousness will be on the way, I promise you. A little icky out there in spots, especially northwest this morning. A dense fog advisory in effect until 11 o'clock. But those winds are starting to pick up a little bit, so it's lifting ever so slowly, and it will reveal sunnier skies behind it, especially north. Down south, I think you're going to hang on to more cloud cover this afternoon, clearing later on in the day, but we're all going to get to abundant sunshine by tomorrow, and we're going to hold on to nothing but sunshine for the rest of the week and into the weekend as well. So some gorgeous weather with a high pressure system taking over, giving us, again, no rain in the forecast. So it will become a little bit breezy later today. We do have a beach hazard statement on Lake Michigan for Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha County. Waves are climbing up to 3 to 6 feet or so, and that lasts until tomorrow. So, little rough waters. Few spotty sprinkles are possible by Lake Michigan later this afternoon and evening. And then high temperatures today hitting mid 60s to about 70 degrees. So slightly cooler before we get our warmer weather moving in tomorrow. So low to mid 70s by tomorrow afternoon. Sunny skies. We're going to hit the upper 70s for Friday and then tapping 80 degrees for a lot of us for the weekend and even into next week. So summery weather right here.
Or one could say gorgeousness is on the way.
Yay.
That'll work. Brittany, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Remember, you can sign up for our daily newsletter at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up in the top banner. And I'm reminded by Ellie, our new newsletter editor, that she has a special edition of the newsletter coming out this Friday. Very fall festival focused. Oktoberfests and getting ready for Halloween and all kinds of sites. So you're looking for things to do on the weekends for a fall weekend in Wisconsin. Well, get signed up for this newsletter in time for the special edition on Friday. Again, upnorthnewswi.com. Earl Ingram's with us now from Civic Media. He's got the What's Going On podcast. I mean, such a range of topics that he covers in each installment. So head over to civicmedia.us, click on shows to learn more. And we're going to see what he's got in some of his latest editions here. Earl Ingram, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Pat. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to chat with you. And I'm very interested in the topic that I think you're going to be bringing up here with one of your guests. Dr. Robert Craig was a guest, and it's a point that I think a lot of people miss when we're talking about the economy in this nation, jobs and manufacturing and everything else. And I mean, we are in an arc of history that I think too many people take for granted when it comes to where this country was at the end of the Second World War to, where we went in terms of peaking and where we are right now. Tell us more about that conversation.
Well, at 71 years old, I lived during those 60s, early 50s. I was born in 1954. And so the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, basically the sweet spot in my life. And I think in this nation as the middle class, strong middle class that built suburbs and all sorts of other things and gave everybody, regardless of whether they had a college degree or not, an opportunity to live the American dream, really was kind of an illusion. And so we keep hearing people talk about getting back to a time that was a very short period of time in the history of this nation. That was during the late 1950s, 60s, and 70s, where industry was king and America was able to build everything that she needed. We didn't need any other nation. We only make up 4% of the global population, yet we produced everything that we needed inside of our borders. And so when you look at it from that perspective, great jobs and opportunities were available to people who couldn't read and write. It was the lifeblood of Black people who came here from the South seeking opportunities. They could come here, and many people couldn't read or write, but they were given opportunities to live middle-class lifestyles predicated on all of the industry that was going on in this country. And so the conversation I had with my good friend, Dr. Craig, centered around the fact that, to hear people say that we're going to get back to that, I don't think they understand the history, the historical facts, and how we were able to do those things at that period of time.
Yeah. Now, look, this is not taking away from all the things that America and Americans could do during that period. But again, you got to keep in mind, much of the rest of the world was in ruins from a global war. And we were it for the economic, for the industrial engine for the longest time. And that's fine. We not only built everything, we built a middle class, the likes of which did not exist previously in human history. But far too many people took that for granted and forgot that, the rest of the world was going to build up its infrastructure again, its manufacturing, and that, U.S. companies would outsource their jobs and things like that. And that, again, this is kind of a natural arc. And so when people say, oh yeah, we're going to get back to those glory days, well, no, not unless you're going to create all the rubble of a world war. So now, Earl, less people think it's just a couple of old men rocking on the porch here, grousing that the good old days ain't coming back. We're just setting the perspective for people so that when you look forward, you're not essentially blowing smoke and romanticizing what it is we're going to get back to. We can make things better, but let's put our expectations in the here and now, and not some era in the 50s and 60s that ain't coming back.
Well, so what predicated, and you're absolutely correct, what predicated the conversation that I had with Dr. Craig was in Milwaukee last week. A family of 6 children ages 9 to 2 months were found living in a storage facility. 1:30 in the morning, they heard whimpers coming from this storage facility. The police came, were able to somehow get into the storage facility and notice 6 children living in a facility with no lights, no bathroom, no heat. And so the family, mother and father, were just outside in a car. They couldn't afford to find any place to live. And if you look at the realities of what people are faced with in this nation, for every 100 people looking for a place to rent, there's only 35 available. So the impacts of what has happened in this nation and what continues to happen are monumental. And I think that so many people aren't aware of the statistics that go along with what is taking place in this nation. If they really knew, they'd realize we're in a crisis that warrants political leaders from both sides of the spectrum to put aside certain things and not give major tax breaks to people who are always as wealthy as they are, while a large segment of this population is struggling.
And that is so on point, because people are going to want to right away just point fingers at those parents. And I'm not taking anything away from that, but the conditions that led people to that point. Why do we have conditions like this in the wealthiest nation ever, with wealth that is so concentrated in people who could not care less about those who are struggling to the point where they feel the need to live in cars and in storage sheds? And this is a time right now in this history of our country to figure out how do we fix that? How do we fix that inequality and still, well, I won't say still keep America strong. It'll frankly make America stronger if we address that wealth gap that we have in this country. And I'm sure Dr. Craig agrees with that.
Well, Pat, I would say this. The real inherent danger in where we are is that since 2023, the number of homeless people rose 18%. Since 2023, in 2 years. And so it from 670,000 to 780. Those are the numbers that they can count, not counting the ones that we know aren't being counted. And so at that rate and where our economy is headed, those numbers are going to get even worse. And I maintain that family was not alone in living in those kinds of conditions. They are everywhere. And we've got to make an effort. We've got to make an effort to count them. They're American citizens, and they deserve a better opportunity in life.
Well, especially, if we're going to live any kind of a creed of a Judeo-Christian nation for some folks, maybe live up to more of those parts of Scripture as well. It's the kind of thing that Robert Kennedy saw and tried to call attention to and tried to address. And instead, we're watching Robert Kennedy Jr. do things that are just not going to help any of these folks at all. Learn more about this by catching Earl Ingram on the What's Going On podcast. Head over to civicmedia.us. click on shows and look at all the episodes that Earl has been pushing out for us. A great public service for us all. Earl, thanks so much. Always appreciate the visit. Hope you have a great day.
You as well.
All right. Still ahead, we're going to have our climate check, and we're going to be talking about healthcare, the health insurance premium assistance that's provided to make healthcare more affordable, and why politicians are trying to kill it and potentially lead to a government shutdown next week. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go. Hey, how are you? Actually, let me get this here.
I am doing good. How about you?
Whoops. I am good, thanks. Oops, hang on. There we go. Copy link. I just want to open up that article you sent. Yeah, all good. All good here. No complaints. And if I complain, nobody would care anyway. So let's see.
And what is the show for?
The show is for filling dead air with a guy who's got to get up early to pee anyway. I thought we'd established that.
We have.
That's the entire business model of this show. I got to get up early anyway. I may as well get paid for it. So
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, it's all good. Anything new in your world this week?
No, nothing much. I feel like I'm finally, back in the world of the living, and I was quite sick for like a week and then was out of town last week. So it's like, I'm finally just back to normal things.
Good. Okay. Sounds great. All right. We got minute 15 and then we'll be back.
Right.
"30 seconds."
Hey, we've got you covered from a healthcare standpoint over at Up North News. Not only do we have Dr. Kristen Lyerly on twice a week, an OBGYN, but we have a new video series with pediatrician Dr. Kelly Snooks called Raising Wisconsin. Look for that on the Up North News Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok feeds. Again, Raising Wisconsin with Dr. Kelly Snooks. All right, welcome to our climate check for this week. And yes, we will get to the things the President of the United States had to say at the United Nations yesterday and what it is he said about climate change. And it's the kind of things you would expect from a guy who, if he had it his way, you'd have a coal-operated electric toothbrush. So we'll get around to it. But, climate change is real, and it is having real impact on our everyday lives, like quite literally our personal lives. And Melissa Baldoff is going to kick off that segment this week for us. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing all right. After being sick and traveling, I am, finally back in the land of the living.
Yes. Well, and a lot of people, there's concerns. I got my COVID shot last week and my flu shot, and there's all kinds of other things out there, not the least of which is ragweed and all the other fall allergies that are out there. And frankly, a changing climate has an impact on that as well. Tell us more.
Yeah. So this was, timely information for me to learn. with, having a cold and then ended up with, this cough and sniffle that lingers, even though I'm feeling better. And lo and behold, I read a story about how climate change is supercharging fall allergies. The main cause, like you said, is ragweed. And as our climate gets warmer, those ragweed plants are living longer and they are producing pollen later into the fall. So that is something that's going to be triggering those allergies, make them last longer, cause the sneezing, the sniffles, your, eyes itchy and watery, get that cough lingering. And, that's just something, another impact of climate change and of that worsening climate crisis that we've got. There are big ways, there are small ways. This is one of those ways that's maybe small for a lot of people,
No,
but it's a real impact.
But it counts because again, when things are drier and when your drier seasons last longer, for example, here in the Midwest, the pollen season, according to an article from Yale Climate Connections, the pollen season is now lasting a month longer than it did in 1970. So in 5 decades, pollen season is now a month longer. We talked about somewhat related to this of all the many ways that a changing climate impacts us. Expect more like Lyme's disease and things from ticks, because again, with the dry season lasting longer, their season is longer, and it makes it a wider window for you to pick up something that may be a tick-borne illness is what the case. And as the article notes, by having more carbon dioxide in the air, it just allows these ragweed plants to grow bigger and create more pollen. And look, you can shut the windows, you can use an air filter, and there's certainly medicine out there, but it's simply worth noting that when people go like the president yesterday talking about it being some kind of a big con job, he's just not living in the real world, Melissa.
Exactly. And the irony shouldn't be lost on anyone that the convicted felon president, the biggest scammer and con we've ever seen, would call anything a scam or a con job. But here we are with Donald Trump, insulting our allies, at the UN, embarrassing our country once more. And this is just one of the many ways as he is mocking our allies for investing in green energy and committing to sustainability. And he's telling them, this is all a scam. Your country's going to fail if you keep doing this. Another one, all of the quote from him, all of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people. I mean, this is just
this guy calling scientists stupid, right? That's rich.
Right.
So we've got that. He gets the attention for saying these ridiculous things, none of which is based in science or fact or reality, whatever the case may be. So the folks that do understand this, do have these conversations, do look for solutions, but they're also gathering. And in this case, this weekend, there'll be a climate march that you wanted to bring up.
I did, yes. So this weekend on Sunday, there will be the Wisconsin Climate March in Madison. So anyone who's in the area who's able to get there should absolutely join. Meeting starting at noon on the Library Mall, and then at 1:00 starting the march down State Street to the Capitol Square. After that, there will be some speakers and other folks to keep the celebration and conversation going. But this is really about different people and organizations, and Forward Together Wisconsin that I work with, along with Mandela Barnes, is one of the sponsors here. But this is about people coming together to send a message that climate can't wait. And this is going to be a way to just demonstrate the very broad public support for renewable energy and that opposition to dirty fossil fuels. So this is just one way to bring community together and educate the public and really show a strong show of force that there is community and like-minded folks who are going to be advocating and know that we can't wait.
Right, because by and large Republicans, both in Madison and in Washington, D.C., who would love to think that this all just kind of fades away and people just get used to, repealing all of these things that create a whole new generation of clean energy jobs. So by having events like this, it reminds these politicians they are being watched. They are expected to be moving forward and not taking us back. And so, again, you can head to wisconsinclimatemarch.org to learn more. Melissa Baldoff has our climate check each week. Thank you, Melissa, very much. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Glad you're feeling better.
Thanks. You too.
All right. All right. Coming up next, we will talk about health insurance policies, health insurance tax credits to make those policies more affordable with a national expert right after this. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Did you see Dan's sharing of the new Republican governor candidate?
Did I see what?
Dan sent a link in the politics chat to a tweet of a new Republican candidate for.
Okay. Let's see. Let's put this over here. What do we got here? Brett Halsey? Okay. Anyway. All right. Catherine, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here again. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Okay. So we've got the tax credits that we'll be talking about today here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right. Good.
Are you going to use the video?
No, I won't have that at my fingertips here. So if you want to discuss, is it something that people can look up?
No, I just meant, are you going to show me?
Because that video. I thought, did you send a video?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. What we typically do is we do grab a video soundbite and turn it into like a Facebook post or an Instagram post. So yeah, we would have you on for whatever 10, 12 seconds you say about what these tax credits actually do.
Oh, okay. Because I was just noticing I think I'm going to, do you mind if I move into the other room again?
No,
because
fine.
I think my
we got
iPad is like a little bit low in here. So
Okay.
I just thought it would. I've been having some Wi-Fi problems, so I moved into the kitchen, but then I feel like I'm at the wrong height. So yeah, let me head back in here. That's better.
All right. Now, are you still hearing me? Because your video froze. And so you may have to head back there because we are not hearing you and your video is frozen. So I don't even know if you're still on. Are you there, Catherine?
And now we don't have such good connection.
No, we don't. Are you able to just get back to your original spot and we'll just forego the video? Oh, there. See, she got a little too far away from the Wi-Fi spot there.
Okay, sorry. This is better.
There you go. There.
Okay.
Yep, that's much better. So we'll just forego the video soundbite part of it, and you'll be.
Well, I lifted it's okay with me. I lifted my
good.
iPad up a little bit. If you want to use it, it's fine.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Good. Everything looks great. We will get going in 1 minute. Okay.
Okie doke.
See you in a bit.
30 seconds.
Hey, just a reminder, I sit here from 6 until 9 a.m. weekday mornings. You don't have to. We'd love to have you along for the full 3 hours, 5 days a week. If you can't, well, all the more reason to pod this little program. Head over to Spotify and follow our show, or do so at Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And that way you never miss a guest, you never miss an update, you never miss a quip. And that includes topics like healthcare. And we're going to discuss that right now with our guest, Kathy Hempstead from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. We're going to talk about, you always hear us talking about, the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare kind of at this very overarching umbrella of healthcare, et cetera. We're going to get into kind of the nitty gritty of it. What is it that makes it more affordable? And why is that a bit of a political football lately as we talk about, the federal budget and things like that? Kathy Hempstead, good morning. Nice to have you here again.
Hi, Pat. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. And for telling us more, we're going to get into specifically these healthcare tax credits. It's tax credits that really kind of put the affordable in the Affordable Care Act. So why don't we kind of go back to when the earth cooled here and explain how these tax credits, how these subsidies, how they are essentially are the foundation of the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. That's a great question. The Affordable Care Act was designed to help fill a really important gap in our healthcare system, which was to provide affordable coverage to people who didn't get an offer from their employer, weren't old enough for Medicare, didn't have low enough income for Medicaid. So they sort of updated, improved, re-regulated the individual market and required insurers to accept everyone, no underwriting for medical conditions, rating only for age. And to make that actually work for people, to make the coverage be affordable, they also included this set of tax credits that were based on income. And it was an amazing accomplishment and filled a really important gap. But there was definitely the perception that the tax credits were not sufficient to make coverage as affordable as people wanted. So, for example, when you reached 400% of the poverty level, which is only about $62,000 annual income for a person, so it's not a very high income, you actually would hit what people call the subsidy cliff. You wouldn't get any tax credit at all. So coverage was really unaffordable for people at that income level and over. And for people with really low income, there was also the perception that the tax credits were not really sufficient, and a lot of people were not taking the offer of coverage. So in 2021, they enhanced the tax credits. They made them more generous, and they also eliminated that subsidy cliff and just had a cap of a percent of income that you would be required to spend on premiums, so that that kind of smoothed that top part of the income distribution and made the coverage a lot more affordable for people at the lower end of the income distribution. And as a result, in every state in the country, enrollment really soared. Like, for example, in Wisconsin, you went from close to 200,000 people in 2020 to about 313,000 in 2025. So that's like a 50% bump up in your enrollment in the Affordable Care Act marketplace. And those kinds of results were seen all over the country, and enrollment in the marketplace soared to like 24 million. But the reason I'm on the show today and the reason we're talking about it is that those enhanced credits are set to expire at the end of this year unless Congress takes action. And, as you probably know, open enrollment is going to start soon for the 2026 plan year. And that plan year is going to reflect the end of those tax credits unless something happens.
So you had those expiring, and then to add insult to injury, You had the massive cuts to Medicaid and other things that made life more affordable for Americans in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. And now it comes time to pass a new federal budget for the new fiscal year. Republicans most likely need Democratic votes in order to pass that. And Democrats are saying, well, in return for our vote, here's some things that we would like to see restored or extended. And so when you look at what they're talking about, well, I guess, I don't know if I should ask best case scenario or the most realistic good scenario that could happen between now and next week that would be beneficial to most Americans in keeping their health care affordable. Is it just focusing on those enhanced tax credits and restoring those?
I think that's the most feasible thing that's on the table right now. You did mention some other like looming threats to coverage that are going to impact people in the Medicaid program, work requirements and some really important changes that affect how states are able to finance the program and pay providers. And there are, lots and lots of concerns about what those things are going to do to coverage. And in fact, CBO has estimated kind of all in, maybe 15 million Americans are going to become uninsured over the next 10 years, which is something like a 50% increase in the size of the uninsured population. So it's a massive assault on health insurance coverage, when you look at all the pieces. But I think the thing that is, closest to really, hitting the road and being enacted is this situation with the enhanced premium tax credits. And that's what people are trying to incorporate into budget discussions in Congress. And certainly there have been talks about a permanent extension. There've been talks about a 1-year extension. There've been talks about a 2-year extension. I mean, right now, unfortunately, the parties are not talking to each other at all, it seems. At least that's what the public face of it is. So it's very, very difficult to suss out what might be happening.
Our guest is Kathy Hempstead from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and we're talking about the enhanced tax credits that helped folks afford health insurance through the Affordable Care Act and them expiring or potentially being extended. And I like the point that you made that there's talk about making them permanent or maybe for another year or two. Obviously, what was approved in 2021 is expiring now. Why was it set up that way? Because like in all things, politics is the art of the possible. And there were plenty of people in 2021 who figured that by 2025, they would see how many more people are being helped by those enhanced tax credits, how much more affordable health insurance has become for more Americans, and that they would then see that and want to make it permanent. Obviously, that's not what we're seeing proposed by the Trump administration or by congressional Republicans. But Catherine, there's no shortage of either anecdotes or mentions in news stories that there are individual Republican members of Congress who have indicated they would be open to extending or maybe even making permanent the enhanced tax credits because they understand the help. They also understand the harm going into an election year of saying that these credits were allowed to expire. But I'm wondering if you get the same sense that there are more than zero, individual Republicans in Congress who might be amenable to extending these healthcare tax credits and avoiding a shutdown next year.
I think that's definitely right. And there have been a number of individual members who have said they're open to talking about it. There's been some proposals from Republicans, of maybe a 1 or a 2-year extension. So I think you're right. And the truth is that states that voted Republican are really, in general, as a rule, have disproportionately higher use of the ACA marketplace, especially some of the states that haven't expanded Medicaid, which I know is partially true in Wisconsin, but states like Texas and Florida are really dependent on the marketplace, and they're going to see massive disruptions in coverage loss if these tax credits go away. So I think there's a lot of concern in all members of Congress, but I think especially a lot of Republican members, that their constituents are going to experience really massive sticker shock when they start to see what they're going to be asked to pay for coverage. And, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to drop coverage, and that's going to create a spiral of bad consequences for individuals, for hospitals, healthcare providers, everybody. So I do agree with you that there is a lot of interest from some individual members, Republicans and certainly Democrats, in trying to come to an agreement.
We were talking in the last hour about a New York Times article that cited Republicans who were pointing to the cost of all of these enhanced tax credits and citing that big price tag as a reason to oppose their renewal. But what was missing from there was the comparison, the contrast with what's the cost if suddenly all of those people can't afford their health insurance anymore, either have to pay a lot more and decide to drop it, or just are no longer eligible. And I don't know that's a number you have at your fingertips. But again, I would imagine the cost of extending these tax credits probably pales in comparison to the long range cost of having that many more million Americans go back to being uninsured.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's also worth noting that this is the only tax credit that didn't get extended. So when you think about what was in the reconciliation bill, which included a lot of extensions of tax credits and then some really drastic cuts, historic cuts to the Medicaid program, and then you see this, it seems like there's a real concerted effort to undermine health insurance coverage in recent policy. And to your point, yes, it costs money to cover people, but it's also very costly when people aren't covered, because you see people neglect symptoms because they are terrified of having medical debt or not knowing what they might be asked to pay if they go into the hospital or clinic and they don't have coverage. So people neglect symptoms until they're much more serious, then they show up in more expensive settings like emergency rooms. And unfortunately, sometimes it's too late for things to be treated. And there've been a lot of great studies of the health benefits of expanding coverage. And unfortunately, we kind of know what's going to happen when you throw that process into reverse, which is something that I think we're really looking at in this country from a multiple set of sources. And then you also see, the consequence on the healthcare system when people lose customers that can come in and pay for preventive care or for elective surgery or for things that improve the quality of their life, but they won't do if they don't have coverage. Then you see some hospitals, especially in rural areas, becoming very financially stressed, maybe having to lay people off, maybe having to eliminate certain specialties. And then that has a spillover effect on the health and access to healthcare for the entire community, especially in rural areas when there may not be a lot of healthcare systems. So you're right, there is a real negative ripple effect when people lose coverage. And it's also not just people's health and not just the healthcare system, but health insurance coverage is a really important form of financial protection. So when people go into debt or people have big medical bills to pay, they stop paying other bills. They may not pay their rent. They may not pay their credit card bills. And so you see a sort of a downward spiral in people's financial well-being too. So it's extremely costly to not cover people.
Kathy Hempstead is with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, helping explain this very important part of keeping affordable in the Affordable Care Act and some of the background on what may lead to a government shutdown fight next week, when Congress is back in session. Catherine, thank you again. It's always great to get background from you. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Pleasure.
All right. Yep. Take care now. All right. Some final news and notes from Lake Wissota coming up here. And again, a reminder, tomorrow we'll have some of our regular Thursday guests here. That'll include Joe Zepecki. It'll include Sean O'Malley talking about your money and the markets as well. All that ahead. For more information, of course, you can always head to civicmedia.us, click shows to learn more, look for our back issues of shows, or subscribe to us as a podcast. Head over to Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Back in just a bit. You're up north. All right. So now you have some of the background on the potential government shutdown next week. Again, Congress is off all this week. They'll have Monday and Tuesday of next week to figure out something. Otherwise, Tuesday night at midnight, if there's no deal or a continuing resolution to kick the can down the road, there'll be a government shutdown, which is really unfortunate because there are a lot of other things going on right now. Not the least of which you've heard me talk about before is, what's going to happen with a lot of Wisconsin farmers and their crops, especially their soybeans. But anyway, our question of the week is, who does get blamed for a government shutdown if it happens? Is it Republicans in Congress, Democrats in Congress, or President Trump? And if you want to be first to see our question of the week on Sunday mornings, then head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe in the top banner, and get on board our newsletters. But back to the soybean problem for a bit. I noticed that the national political site Axios is taking note of, shall we say, some nervousness in Iowa, where they have a soybean market of nearly $6 billion a year. And again, not only has China not purchased any soybeans at all from the U.S. this year because of Donald Trump's tariffs and trade war, but this week we learned about a surprise deal with Argentina. China rarely buys anything from Argentina, but now they're going to be getting soybeans from Argentina and Brazil, and at the moment, none from the U.S. Even if Congress and the president wanted to try to buy off farmers with some kind of bailout payments, well, two things. First, it would only add to the debt and the deficit, which they don't seem to have a problem with because they did it during Trump's first term. But second, if there's a shutdown, they can't even get around to doing that because they're busy squabbling about the overall budget itself. They're fighting about the extended healthcare premium supports that we just talked about in our last segment, and so many other things that there are to think about. And yet all we've got going right now is a potential shutdown and a potential trade war. I see that a little bit ago, congressional candidate Rebecca Cook put out a press release urging that Congress and the president exempt soybeans from tariffs in order to protect Wisconsin farmers. She says soybeans represent a $1.3 billion industry in our state. These tariffs are hurting farmers across Wisconsin. The price of a bushel of soybeans has dropped from $15 a bushel 3 years ago to as low as $10 per bushel today. And that is a direct result of tariffs that are driving down demand and the supply chain disruptions that come from it. And Rebecca Cook says this is an existential crisis for our family farms, our regional economy, and our way of life. It's why I'm calling on President Trump to exempt soybeans from his tariffs and save Wisconsin farmers from further financial pain. There is somebody who has sat on the House Agriculture Committee who could be a leading voice on that, and that would be Derek Van Orden. And yet, as I'm looking to see if there's anything, if you do just a simple search on Derek Van Orden and soybeans, no, no, there's nothing there. There may have been a quote here or there, but in terms of any actual leadership, none whatsoever. And here is somebody who promised to be an independent voice representing the 3rd Congressional District. It's something that we had in Republican Steve Gunderson for many years, especially when it came to dairy prices and fighting for all the dairy farmers in the 3rd Congressional District in Western Wisconsin. It was something that Democrat Ron Kind fought for as well, to represent all of the farms in the 3rd Congressional District. The 3rd Congressional District is used to sending moderates. Steve Gunderson was a moderate Republican, Ron Kind, a moderate Democrat. Derek Van Orden billed himself initially as this kindly grandfather who served in the military and would continue to be that voice for everyone in the 3rd District. And instead, he's in the Washington Post today, but he's in the Washington Post for all the wrong reasons, for trying to cut all federal funding to the city of Eau Claire because of what some people posted on social media, and cut funding to all of the city of Ellsworth because of what somebody put on social media, and funding to the entire Mayo Clinic because of what somebody put on social media. If you missed it earlier, Derek Van Orden actually jumped in our comment sections at Up North News. We put up a post a few days ago about these threats to our First Amendment freedoms that he's been making, and pointing out the harm that does, and that it doesn't really comport with somebody who should be fighting on the side of freedom of expression. And he jumped in the comment sections to say that not all speech is protected speech, and to cite a particular federal statute as proof of that. But that statute doesn't say what he thinks that it says. And so rather, he was just rather rambling and looking for ways to justify making threats against his own constituents and communities in his district. And as much as we are flattered that a sitting member of Congress wants to get into our comment section, we really wish he'd get off social media entirely and show some leadership on things like helping farmers whose soybeans are going to go nowhere, and the prices that are only going to continue to go down in the meantime. But of course, he's getting into his example from the president of the United States, who we didn't even have time this morning to get into his rambling speech to the United Nations. It was full of false claims and contradictions. And again, he's literally campaigning for a Nobel Peace Prize while he's sending troops into cities within the United States of America. So much to continue talking about. We'll do more tomorrow morning, and of course, more throughout the day here on the Civic Media Radio Network, including your next chance to win in the Go for the Green and Gold Text to Win contest. The next keyword is quite literally minutes away with Jane and Greg from Matt and Air on Air. I'm Pat Kreitlow, founding editor of Up North News. We'll see you back here bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. here up north.